Your lightning is really great, CIC.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually very good, and the background, the state house background is really good. I think we just need to do a little bit of modification, and I'm saying this like Jesus. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. If you're joining, Deborah Arising, good morning. Welcome on board. Kindly share, like, and comment. Share it in different groups. Invite people. Yeah, place day, Comrade Samba, always present. Woman of God, your place of a day. Please push on your WhatsApp groups, Facebook pages, and let us start. We'll be starting in the next 2 minutes. While we are waiting, I was just telling the president that he looks very well this morning, despite what he's been going through, despite what he's doing on a daily basis, he still looks well, and we are happy to see him the way he is. At least he's strong. God is protecting him for Ambazonia.
Amen.
Yeah. President, I think I don't want to waste your time because I know you're a very busy person. We're just going to go ahead, and they will join us whenever they are ready. So thank you very much once again. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much once again for joining us today in the studio. Welcome back to this very important and unique conversation with the leader of our War of Liberation. Today we are honored to have, sometimes we think that we already know him so much that we fail to introduce him properly. But I just want to be honored, give us the privilege to know who he is again. So we are honored to bring to you this unique and insightful individual, the one and only person who has stood strong, who has been steadfast, who has not blinked over the years. Movements have come and gone, leaders have come and gone, but he stands like a rock in the middle of the sea because he believes that there is nothing that can pull him down. The only thing that will give him rest will be the liberation of Ambazonia. So in this exclusive one-on-one interview, we are going to deal with a lot of things. We will be discussing on the Public Order Act, the Resident Permit Act, the Ambazonia Independent Manifesto, the Prohibition Order on the sale of land in Ambazonia, the Yellow Taxi Color, the Liberation Tax, strategic international collaboration with other countries, and many more. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am so delighted to bring to you the forerunner, the freedom fighter for Ambazonian freedom, Dr. CHO Lucas AYABA, who has over the years dedicated his life, sacrificed his family, sacrificed everything to be sure that Ambazonia is liberated, and on a daily basis, he doesn't rest. As you can hear, even in his voice when he will be talking, you can see that he's so stressed up, but because he wants to see Ambazonia liberated, he is not giving up. So, Mr. President, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon, this evening, this morning to speak to your people.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, PS, for all the accolades. And for the warm welcome. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome, Mr. President. If we want to welcome you on a daily basis, we will never lack words to welcome you with, because your daily sacrifices are enough to be up words to describe who you are. You've never blinked, and you've encouraged many of us to stand strong, and we are happy that you're pulling us along. And at the end of this journey, we will all sit down one day and say, we did it. And this is the journey that we took. These are the parts that we actually took during this liberation struggle. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. And I said we have so much to cover, but we will cover it in a chronological order. Well, some we might go out and come back in, but I would like us to start with the independence, the Ambazonia Independent Manifesto, the executive order on the sale of land in Ambazonia, the residency permit, the Public Order Act, the liberation tax, the yellow taxi color in Ambazonia, and of course, internationalization and the way forward for the Ambazonian liberation. Before I go into the questions on all of these topics that I have mentioned, Mr. President, I first of all want us to have a little conversation on what you've been doing in the past years. I remember that last year you took it upon yourself. I said in my introduction that leaders have come and left, movements have come and gone, but you are like a rock in the middle of the sea that is not moving. And you, you have been so consistent that you've shocked the minds of everybody. You've shocked the minds of Ambazonians. Even the international community is confused. You know, when they said before that there are 2 cubes of sugar that are dropped in the basin and that will be melting soon, and you said, "Die, we die here. I'm going nowhere. You're not melting." You said, "Chang, I am going nowhere," and you've been there. The water has dried up. They added water. Water is coming, is dried up, but you sit there and you're staring at them. And so, Mr. President, I remember last year you took it upon yourself to speak to Ambazonians state by state. You went into their cultures. You brought out the beauty of that culture, that state, the resources that those states they have, what the elite of those states, the history of those states, the fighters that were in that state. You brought out so many things to sell the Ambazonian culture to the people who did not even know about their own cultures. Yes. And you took your time such that we all got educated via this state-by-state address, because the things you brought out during that time, none of us, of course, our history has been distorted over the years, but you brought us the raw and undiluted history of these respective states. So what I'm asking, you also have taken up again the initiative of trying to do daily briefings to Ambazonians. Despite the many outings you make, you take it on yourself to do daily briefings to Ambazonians. What is this thing, Mr. President? I know Ambazonian. Where is this strength and motivation coming from? Is it that I don't know, please talk to us, sir. The people are so anxious to hear you talk. What is it, Mr. President?
It's one of the most difficult questions I've ever been asked. I don't know. I am just, what should I say? I'm just dedicated to things I believe in. Right. And that holds true to my life, to my friendship. And I hold long-term friendship. So when I believe in something and I try to find out fundamental facts about those things. And when I'm committed to altering, especially people's lives, I do so. I walk on the street and I find beggars. I just feel like I start judging myself. Why am I better off? And so I believe the Ambazonian people have been deceived. They have been traumatized. The deceit is so monumental. And the arrogance of the enemy is palpable. And so sometimes you simply have to take the bully in the neighborhood and call their bluff. When it came to the things you've outlined, and I think you stopped me from doing daily, as the name goes, daily briefing. You advise that I should give some days, and that's why people don't get me on a daily basis. And I think you were right. You come to realize that we are the strategy of the enemy has been to look at Fako on Dian and say, well, this is where the resources are concentrated, because the enemy has gone along the kind of colonial lines of argument, thinking that the resources of today is only in oil. And they use these tactics of deception to fuel an anti-state kind of agenda from the states that believe they have wealth. States that are projected as wealthy become somehow entitled and believe in the propaganda of the enemy. So I wanted to make other states to say, no, we aren't broke, that we are equally rich. And that would inspire them not only to stand for their state, but it will create some sense of respect for themselves with respect to the other states. For me, it was also a learning journey. I'm fighting, I'm leading, but I read on a daily basis to know my country, to understand the cultures of others, to use that knowledge to overcome certain barriers, certain, I think you are aware that different nationalisms within Ambazonia have been denigrated. If you came from Pingin, you were denigrated. You came from Bafut, you were called Seven Kata. It was a denigration, instead of seeing that connotation as a name or connotation of power and empowerment. If you came from Kwakwa, you were given certain names. I just wanted to educate Ambazonians to believe in themselves, to embrace their culture, and that embrace will begin their own personal liberation from the deception of the enemy.
Okay. And to be honest, you did a great job, and Ambazonians really appreciated you for what you did, because most people, even people from Bafut, most of them didn't even understand the cultural values, the Bafut tradition itself, the history of Bafut and what Bafut did during the colonial time.
Exactly.
And so you brought up, you gave us that undiluted education, but still, despite these sacrifices that you're making, Mr. President, we still had people on the social media saying, "Oh, you're doing all of these daily briefings, or you were trying to speak to the people in their local dialect." Because I remember you could greet people you could say one or two words in all of these local dialect of these states. And people, instead of appreciating this sacrifice, this enormous sacrifice, because others are sleeping, having their daily lives going on, but you are in the studio studying, reading the history of Ambazonia, educating our people. But they come up to say you're trying to posture yourself to gain the people's law and try to project yourself. You're just trying to gain sympathy for people to like you, to become the leader of the Ambazonian liberation. What do you have to say to these people? Because it's still mind-blowing for people to even still think like that in this day and age during this revolution.
No, it's normal, and you should pray for them. Trust me. They need your sympathy rather than your rebuke. What I've realized in the notion of servitude and even imprisonment, you become accustomed to the narrative that the enemy, or the price tag that the enemy has placed on your head, and it becomes very difficult for you to break away from that narrative, because you've adjusted yourself to it. And sometimes those who rise up and gain knowledge, or have access to knowledge, and are able to educate, to ensure liberation, are seen as attempting to stir the enemy for more repression. I remember when I was in Boya, some students thought, I was creating the condition for more repression. And what if the regime gets angry and multiplies the fees instead by 20? I remember in Victoria when we were fighting against the government delegates. One time in Cassava Farm, we were, tossing stones at helicopters, and entire neighborhoods were like, "Get the hell out of here. You are inviting the helicopter gunships to kill us. So it's a normal mindset of people who have been oppressed. Knowledge is liberating, and sometimes they are afraid because the status quo is known, is comforting, is predictable. And acquiring knowledge, knowing that you are a slave, some people don't like that. As far as posturing, there is nothing to posture for, as you've indicated. I barely sleep. This is war. Meetings upon meetings, 10, 15, 20 from midnight every time. And you have to be awake. You have to monitor the forces. You have to understand the enemy. There is no pay, and you lose money on a daily basis. Nobody postures for this kind of, this kind of an endeavor. As far as to be loved, I think Ambazonians love me. Ambazonians believe in me. Ambazonians like what I'm doing. They have been manipulated. They have been hijacked. They have been attacked. And I think I do it from an altruistic perspective. I don't expect anything. I don't want to become anything. I just, like every Ambazonian, want to be free. And that's what we all should be focused in getting.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Like you said, Ambazonians love you, and Ambazonians are so grateful to have a leader like yourself, because you bring yourself to that level where an ordinary Ambazonian will pick up their phone and call you and complain to you about certain things happening in their own private lives. And you are there patiently enough listening and then providing solution. And that is something that most leaders do not have. We've seen people come up and so arrogant in a way that even their own close executives cannot speak to them freely. But in the Ambazonian Governing Council, where you are the leader, where you are the president, and also the leader of our liberation, you've given us the freedom to be able to express ourselves, especially somebody like me, Mr. President.
So, you know thyself.
You've given us that freedom. You are not the kind of leader who comes and say, oh, it is A and it stays A. You have a team in the A GovC that say, oh no, Mr. President, this is not the Ambazonia we want to be. I like the fact they'll always remind you that no, we are coming from this system, we will not go back into this system. And this is what we are looking for in a leader that listens to his people, a leader that understand the pain of the people and provide solution to those the challenges that the people are having. And we are so grateful to have you. Those who think that you are not the leader for Ambazonia, I feel sorry for them, because by all means, they're just looking for ways to come back.
No, those people,
our arms are open.
Those people pray for me more than you think. I'm telling you, we were making the joke the other day. When just like a joke, somebody said Chris Anu had that I'm dead, and he said, "Oh my God, we are finished." So recall when the news came out that I've been arrested. The first person who called me was Compassion. He called and he was panicking. So they love me. They don't. You see, they don't simply understand how they can accept that one of theirs, could be so dedicated for altruistic purposes. And I think on a daily basis, our work, our dedication, and continuous progress that we'll make will open most of their eyes.
Thank you very much. And you are totally correct. Like Don Pacho being the first person to call you and shouting, oh, I hope you're doing okay. Chris Anu, like, we are finished. That is to tell you, these are the same people who ban you, who exiled you from your own land. So we are grateful, Mr. President, for what you're doing. So I just wanted you to know that we truly love and appreciate you. If we don't say these things to you sometime in our own groups, I want to say it on air so that it should go down in record. Let Ambazonians know that, let Ambazonians be proud to have a leader like you, the one that has stood with them through thick and thin. And you have promised them freedom, and I know for a fact that freedom you will give to them. So thank you very much, Mr. President. And okay, let's get down to other matters. So, Mr. President, we have been looking at, like I said, we'll start off with the Ambazonia Independence Manifesto. But I wanted to read out something in the manifesto before I come into some questions for you, Mr. President. because when I went through this manifesto, it is so rich. I was just reading and smiling. I'm like, oh my God, Ambazonia got it all. AGOVC, they have it all within the organization to pull all of this. But what I wanted to just pick out is the beauty of the manifesto, the project in itself. Like I always hear Eduk say, who said this is the sovereign project for Ambazonia. And when you read this, you can truly say for a fact that it is indeed the sovereign project. So here it says that the manifesto is divided into 3 parts, and I love the way it's covered. So I'll just read it for the audience to just have a brief understanding of what this manifesto is about before I come into asking you questions for more clarity, Mr. President. So it says, it is divided in 3 parts. So, but what does it say? It says what we have suffered. He said in this section, this section would detail various forms of oppression, injustices inflicted upon the Ambazonian people by La République du Cameroon. It highlights the illegal occupation, the political subjugation, economic exploitation, cultural assimilation, and human rights violations perpetrated against Ambazonia. Then the historical context provided underscores the legitimacy of Ambazonian struggle for independence. And it goes further to say our right to life, liberty, and happiness. In this section asserts the inherent right of Ambazonian people to freedom, sovereignty, self-governance, and it invokes international law and resolutions such as the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1514, which affirms the right of all people to self-determination. The declaration emphasizes that Ambazonian people have a natural and inalienable right to establish their sovereign state free from occupation and tyranny of La République du Cameroon. And so what is our vision? It says, finally, the section outlines the founding principles and vision for an independent Ambazonia. It details the purpose, system of governance based on democratic traditionalism, republicanism, distributive federalism, and national unity. The manifesto envisioned the society founded on the pillar of freedom, the rule of law, peace, and the just common good. This is beautiful. And this is just part of, this is how beautiful this has been structured, Mr. President. So before I come to ask you questions on this, what do you have to say in general terms about this manifesto before I pick out specific questions to ask you on this issue of the independent manifesto, Mr. President?
First, what is a manifesto? It's very important for people to understand what a manifesto is. And, you know, we've been fighting this struggle. People have been making several arguments. The strategies we've been putting in place, the declarations we have been making, people have somehow believed they were conjectures or they were simply being conjured. They were rooted in historical facts. They were rooted in a vision. So we've captured all of these declarations, statements of facts, practices, customs, and we've put them in what I call a declaration of principles or the aims that underscore the reason for which we fight. Right. And as you've laid out, that is in 3 sections, it's very important. The struggle has been based simply on section 1, what we fight against. And so in building this manifesto, we simply want to take the people beyond what you fight against to start understanding what you are gaining, what you are going to gain if you succeed in this war. The long-term sustainability of our resistance will not be based on what we are against, but it will be based on what we stand for. And there is a particular part of the manifesto which is very important. I think you've just read part of it, which is the foundational principles. Yeah. Yes. So our manifesto is our journey from oppression to freedom and the tools we will need to navigate that journey. And if our people understand it, our commitment to our struggle is not going to be based on my attitude. It's not going to be based on my position. It's going to be based on our common understanding of our past and a common belief in our future.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. You've literally captured almost all the questions I'd hoped to ask, but I will stay in for the purpose of clarity so that some people who maybe didn't catch the start of your explanation can really have a detailed understanding on this. So I know you've said that this is how Ambazonia we hope to govern Ambazonia as it has been spelled out in the manifesto. But then, what inspired the creation of this independent manifesto? And these key principles and their key principles and objectives, what actually brought the inspiration? Is it what La Republique has done to us? Is it after studying governance of different countries, or is it just the dream Ambazonia that you have always hoped for? And so what was really the inspiration behind this, its key principles and objectives, Mr. Principal?
All of the things that you have just said. All
Right.
of the things. There is an assumption, a reductionist assumption, that situates Ambazonian opposition to injustice and oppression to the last 60 years. And that reductionist assumption undermines what I have stated in the past few weeks of Ambazonian resistance to oppression and injustice more than 100 years ago. And I have argued that our struggle in the last 7 years is just a phase or a reflection of our resistance in the past 123 years under different foreign dominions. So our struggle is not simply about an opposition to Cameroon, hate for Cameroon. It's a reflection of our fundamental opposition to foreign rule, foreign domination, and deprivation. That's number one. The second issue is the Ambazonian in the last 120 years has practiced traditional democratic principles. We have lived in a globalized world where we have strengthened the local in order to compete within the global. And that has been exemplified by the Kuva-Lekenyes, the Abombis, the Asonganis, and other traditional setups that have resisted foreign domination and have shown us how to govern societies based on customs and practices. Right. So there is a corpus of principles and norms and values that we can tap from to understand the Ambazonian democratic space. And if that is not enough, most of those things were captured from the 50s in our practice in democracy, being the first country in the continent of Africa that conducted a free and fair election, a sitting government relinquishing power to the opposition, and a constitution that defined the different functions of the state and was able to define the limits of power of the different components within that the state apparatus. Even the way we've conducted ourselves in the past 7 years of brutality and genocide, we have shown ourselves to be a people who are tolerant, who are compromising, and who are able to share despite the narrative that has been constructed to show that the Ambazonian is intolerant, is a kidnapper for ransom, is an abuser, cannot make compromises. So the building of this manifesto is a reflection of the reality of our lives as Ambazonians, but also of the practices that has journeyed with us from the time of our conception, even in under traditional authorities. And lastly,
yes,
it's also important for you to, and you are somebody who is you're talking a lot now about Pan-Africanism. It is important we understand the reason why the continent has moved from a state of near political independence and maybe some level of economic independence to a system of total reincorporation into a system of foreign domination by Western colonial powers.
Right.
It is because we failed woefully in exercise in preserving, what were part of our governing structures, and either expand, innovate, or create structures that coexist as we did with the House of Chiefs to govern our spaces. We holistically incorporated within our own traditional societies Western doctrines, Western norms and values. We eliminated our languages that informs our mode of communication, that defines the way we deal with conflict, that define the way we deal with compromises. We eliminated them and adopted everything that can be overthrown. If you look at Iran, it is difficult to overthrow Iran because you have to replicate the kind of government that is in Iran.
Exactly.
You cannot overthrow the government of the United Kingdom because the authority of the prime minister must be gotten from the queen or the queen.
Yeah.
That is an inherently United Kingdom structure of governance. The Ambazonian system of governance, the South African, all of these things are Western, and they can be overthrown with a twinkle of an eye. So our manifesto does not holistically try to buy into the kind of Western narrative and Western construct of how society should be built. It factors in our own realities politically because it will be relevant in developing social and economic policies.
Okay. Wow. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for throwing so much light on that. And like you said, this is our own reality and structure in a way that, like you cited, that of the United Kingdom and that of Iran. And even at this, we live in a world where we think that the international community or international law must definitely be applied in everything that we do within our own direct jurisdiction, and also human rights law. So, Mr. President, how does this Ambazonia Manifesto or the Independent Manifesto address the issues of, specific human rights issues and social development within Ambazonia based on international principles, in alignment with international law and principles?
If you look at the Public Order Act, it is built as the foundational principles upon which every other law, every other issue can be derived from, since we do not have an existing functional constitution. And in developing the body of principles or rules, we tap into international humanitarian law that exists in times of conflict. So that's number one. So domestic laws, and they do not exist in a vacuum. They do not exist in isolation to international rules, because international rules is also derived from domestic practices. That's number one. Number two, international law has its place. It has its place. International law, for it to be invoked within Ambazonia, we have to become part of that particular treaty. It has to be incorporated within the Ambazonian constitution so that it can be invoked and implemented domestically. And there are areas where we're going to derogate. There are areas where we'll put reservations. So every international law, whether they are international human rights law or international humanitarian law, that we will adopt will be integrated within the Ambazonian constitutional order. And it will be adapted in a way that it can be invoked and not to be in conflict with our own practices. So there are certain international laws that supersede a kind of domestic laws. They use Kogan's principles, laws with preemptive statutes, like you shall not torture And that's an international law principle that cuts across time and space. And so you cannot invoke any domestic law to supersede that kind of international practice. And you can be arrested anywhere and tried. So we subscribe to that because the respect for human dignity will be part and parcel of the Amazonian constitution. So there will be no conflict. There will be virtually no conflict because Amazonia will make sure that our domestic institutions, our domestic practices, our domestic norms and values are a reflection of global principles. There are others that will be implemented in a different way.
Right.
Yes, there are things that our society, even like in Western societies, not every Western society has adopted same-sex marriage. It is not seen as kind of an international principle that must be. There are other societies that have ratified international treaties, but have not incorporated those or ratified them within their own domestic jurisdiction. So there will be what I call kind of a progressive adaptation as we move forward. But Amazonian values, customs, and norms, which have been based on compromise, tolerance, and peaceful coexistence, is going to supersede everything that we do.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President, for that clarity. It's very important that when we bring you on board like this, you give this succinct clarity to our people, because people are so confused. The social media has confused a lot of people. And when they hear directly from you like this, their minds are put at ease. So I appreciate you for that very detailed answer. And again, looking at the authority of implementation of this independent manifesto, Mr. President, what is the authority, or who is the authority in charge of the implementation of this manifesto, and how does this the existing authority intend to work with other communities to make sure that this is effectively implemented within Amazonia and its respective institutions?
This and I want to give this clarity so we do not confuse issues.
Right.
This is the vision we have for our country, right?
Right.
So this is different, for example, from the AGOVC Charter, whose authority of implementation is the executive of the Amazonian Governing Council, a subsidiary executive under that. At the moment, this is just a vision. And so the Amazonian state will be structured in a way. Let's say AGOVC is going to lead us into freedom, and we are going to negotiate with other movements to build a transition. We will present our vision to the transitional authority within which we will also function. And surely, because this has been a well thought out manifesto to be adopted as governing principles. So if we we talk in part 3 about, I think you read that there, it's
the vision,
democratic traditionalism, and distributive federalism. All right. Let's take distributive federalism. That power will be distributed between the federal structure and the state organs. And so the authority of implementation will be at both the federal and the state level. And beyond the state level, you are going to have other local authorities that will be implementing different aspects of this vision that will be reflected within the constitution and practices and policies of any government that will be in Boya. So you have, if Amazonia becomes a parliamentary democracy, you have the head of government, who is the prime minister, being the sole instrument of policy implementation and formulation as the chief executive officer. You also have maybe the president, who is simply the custodian of Amazonian nationalism reflected in the Amazonian constitution, who has limited powers, maybe to give assent to the prime minister or to oversee certain aspects that will be defined in the constitution. And then you may have the state parliaments that will be legislating to make laws for the particular state. So there will be different centers of implementation of any vision, body of laws that will become the final document that will be accepted by the Amazonian people. But this is the roadmap. This is the vision that lays the foundation in this period of resistance to give Amazonians an understanding of what they fight against and what they are fighting for.
Perfect. That is beautiful. Thank you very much. And like you said, this is the roadmap. And I'm sure Ambazonians will also be curious to just know how this independent manifesto intends to address transitional justice and reconciliation in Ambazonia after our liberation. Do we even talk about reconciliation? What is this going to do? The manifesto, how do you think it will address this issue post-independence, Mr. President?
I have talked about the Ambazonian value system. And if you look in part 3 of this document, it captures the Ambazonian value system. And a system of justice, whether it's retributive or restorative or reconciliation, is reflected in part 3. And they are not conflictual. I'll give you an example. Take the case of Rwanda. Rwanda instituted both restorative and retributive justice. You discover that there were people who had committed certain levels of crimes. They were taken to court. They were tried according to the penal code. They were sentenced to prison terms. There were others that had committed a minimum level of crime, and they were taken within kind of traditional systems of adjudication that is based on confession and forgiveness. Now, how does this manifesto give rise to that corpus of laws and principles that would oversee such systems of reconciliation and justice and accountability? The basic foundational principles are captured in the manifesto. Right. So if we talk about respect for human dignity, if we talk about forgiveness, if we talk about different kinds of principles, and we are developing laws to deal with retributive justice or restorative justice, it must be a reflection of the foundational principles of our country. So you ask if there will be reconciliation. There will be reconciliation. Reconciliation will be part of the things that we will do amongst ourselves, but there will also be accountability in terms of retributive justice. And that's part of reconciliation. If I, Dr. CHO AYABA, have committed some crimes and retributive justice takes its course, and I am sentenced to, say, 5 years in jail, I accept that sentence. I take responsibility for the crime. And in that, I give solace to the family that has been victimized. That's part of reconciliation. I serve my time. They feel like there is closure. If the others who accept certain crimes that they have committed, they ask for forgiveness, you can go into restorative justice. We are going to have some that definitely will face the death penalty. That is also part of accountability and reconciliation. All of these things, we have not only studied them, and you've studied them too. You're a scholar in human rights law. We will be able to use a manifesto like this to design a system of justice that is a reflection of our own society, and that is also takes into account the failures of systems of justices that eliminate retribution, like the South African system, where you start having street killings, xenophobia, corruption at a certain level. We are going to factor in the Nuremberg trial that held perpetrators of genocide between 1939 to 1945 to account. We are going to look at the kind of system of justice that existed in Rwanda that captured both the Gacaca and the ICTR system in Arusha. We are going to look at different systems and build a uniquely Ambazonian type that satisfies our society. This is the principal document that lays the foundation for that kind of thought processes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And like I said, I will keep thanking you, because when we have you here, we are here to have clarity and educate the people more. And you're very good at giving a detailed explanation to things and educating our people on issues that they are unaware of. And we learn from you every day. Sitting right here, as I'm talking to you, I'm also taking note. I'm also watching some people on the comment section saying we are taking notes, which means that if a conversation or a discussion is not that important, nobody will pick up their pen and paper to put down note. So thank you very much on that. And like I said, this Ambazonian Governing Council has been the brain of developing most of these things, and we've seen how the Department of Law and Justice work on a daily basis tirelessly to produce these very important legal documents that will now be used in post-Ambazonia, during the liberation struggle and in post-Ambazonia. So we truly appreciate all of this department and your leadership, because if you were not a good leader, these people will not sacrifice their time and their knowledge to see that Ambazonia is liberated. And because you have given us so much details on the manifesto, but I just wanted to ask, is this open to the public for people who are interested to want to read about the manifesto, the independent manifesto? Is this something that will be shared to the general public? The international community can easily access this, and how can we actually have this? I know I should be answering that question, but I will still put it up to you, Mr. President, since you're here.
Yes, thanks, PS. I'm glad we are having this conversation, because we have this conversation in the background. And as you've talked about my leadership, there are certain things that we all have to agree on how it's going to happen. I might give my own idea, and you people don't like it, it's not going to work. So one of my own suggestion would have been that we get Ambazonians to look at it and maybe make their own comments. We could factor in those comments in an addendum that is attached to the manifesto, so that as we move forward, it's adapted to reflect the collective mindset of the Amazonian people. But we should roll out this manifesto. We are going to make it in form of brochures and a book, not only for the consumption of the Amazonian, but the international community has had a perception about the Amazonian which is diminutive, not only in the last 7 years, but in the last 61 years, and also of the African. The manifesto changes that completely. It gives them an understanding of what these people are fighting for. It gives them an understanding that they can become stakeholders in the outcome of our freedom. They can compare what we stand for and what the enemy that we are fighting against stands for. They can look at this body of work and say, our fear that Ambazonia will become a failure, post-conflict instability, is not reflected in the work that is in the manifesto. So I think in the next few weeks, we should conclude within the Ambazonian Governing Council with our allies on how these things should be rolled out. The other part, which was, I think, suggested by the OGC, I think you are aware in the leadership, was that we record this in kind of an audio book form. Because it's easy form. We're all tired, right? I don't know how much you still read. So
that's very true.
Yes. So we can record part one in an audio book form, and we can share, put it on our website. It can be shared. Record part two. So let's have that conversation.
Which is a beautiful idea, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful idea, because while you're driving to drop a kid in school or pick up a kid, or you're going traveling, for people drive in America for 5 hours to attend an event or do things. During those 5 hours, you're developing your mind, you're building yourself with the history of Ambazonia, what is there for Ambazonia, and you're educating yourself, so that when you sit out there, people are talking, you know exactly when you're talking from a place of knowledge and a place of authority to people. I think it's a brilliant idea, and like you said, and this is the beauty about your leadership, because you give room for all of these suggestions to come up, and then we deliberate on them and we come up with a solution. And whatever solution we've always come up with, it has always been for nothing but for the greater good of Ambazonia, never the Ambazonian Governing Council or the leader or you as the president. It has always been for Ambazonia, and we truly love and appreciate you for that openness and the ability for people to function properly, not feel intimidated to function. And So moving forward, Mr. President, I said we're going to take on the next hot topic on the agenda, which is.
Would you just mind? Let me have 1 minute to
Please.
summarize on the
Please,
manifesto, because I took down some notes and I think you started it clearly well. Let me just say a few words so people can have a bigger understanding.
Right.
You captured the first part.
Right.
The first part of the manifesto is very important. It's what we have suffered, because sometimes it becomes the basis for the right to external self-determination. When a government is instituted and cannot protect the right of a people, those people have a right to self-determination. So what have we suffered? It talks about matters of political status,
Right.
the dismantling of our political institutions, the abuse of our independence of our institutions and things like that. Matters of law and justice. It dismantled our own laws, our practices, our norms, and those things are important for peaceful coexistence of people and determining the extent to which structures can govern. Matters of our economy.
Yeah.
The economic institutions are the foundation for the creation of world peace, stability, growth, and stuff. La Republic totally destroyed everything to make us dependent. Matters of education, social and cultural rights, those things are critical in knowing ourselves and believing in ourselves, working for ourselves and our community. Those are the things that will suffer. Part 2, our right to sovereignty, life, liberty, prosperity, and happiness. To be a state, you must have, there are two basically kind of stuff. You have to have a people, and then you have a territory, and that territory must have international borders. It basically reflects all of these things. It talks about the Amazonian territory, the borders, 1913 Anglo-German treaty. It talks about the 1919 Milner-Simon agreement. And it also reflects what are the body of laws that give us our right to existence as independent state. You read in your resolution 1514 paragraph 15, yes, of 1960, all peoples have a right to existence and to self-determination. That's also reflected in the Article 1 of the ICPRC, in the International Covenant on Economic and Social Rights. It reflected also in the Charter of the United Nations. It reflected in Article 20, paragraph 1 to 4 of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, Article 4 of the African Union Constitutive Act, and also, more importantly, the right of our people. If you look at Communication 266 bar 209, bar 003 209, that declared that we are a people, it also captures the injustices and the part of the things that this manifesto has reflected. And then the last part, which is very important, the foundation and principles. We talk about democratic traditionalism, distributive federalism. It lays clearly the kind of educational system, social justice. It talks about a lot, the kinds of things that we will be proud of, that you can vote, your dignity can be respected, your right to life, liberty, security, to be treated as an equal. And these are the things that we fight and die for. And I really encourage everyone, if you can't read it, we will read it for you and you will be able to listen.
Listen, perfect. I like that. I like that conclusion, Mr. President. If you can read it, we will read it for you to listen. By all means, you will listen. So thank you very much, Mr. President. And I think, like you said, in the coming weeks, there will be final conclusions on this, and we will decide where to have this published, whether on the website or call on Ambazonians to put in their own thoughts, and then we put it as an addendum. And whatever we decide in the coming week, Ambazonians, one thing you can be rest assured of is that you will have this at your disposal, because it is this important to all of us. So that said, Mr. President, I'm going back into the executive order on the land sales in Ambazonia. Mr. President, Ambazonian land is for Ambazonians. Please talk to us about the land in Ambazonia and the purpose of this order. What even inspired you to put out this order? I know there must have been some clarion calls coming in left and right for you to do something about this. What was the motivation and why this executive order?
As I said, we are not oblivion to the crisis in Zimbabwe. We saw how the land issue became a thorny political issue that led to the collapse of the Zimbabwean economy. We are also aware that the Zimbabweans did not institute the land reclaim order immediately after their independence because they thought it will inhibit South African independence. So we've realized also in the conflict in Rwanda between the Tutsis and the Hutus that land was the principal issue that led to the issue of genocide. So the question of land is critical for the survival of every people. Back to Ambazonia, we are witnesses to ongoing practices. And in the past, we thought these were just a kind of buy and sell and practices between the buyer and the seller. Yeah. We came to realize in our history that DOs became agents in fueling tribal conflict and because of land, a conflict between two villages, and elites promise to pay DOs a lot of money. They engineer a particular kind of conflict, and land was practically the basic issue that fueled those particular conflicts. We have also seen large swaths of land being claimed, reclaimed from the CDC and being sold to multiple buyers, mostly Cameroonians, especially in Fako, and entire areas have been occupied by Cameroonians through these practices. We have also seen that because of the terrible economic situation, political repression, and the poverty, many families have resorted to selling lands to Cameroonians as a one-way ticket into exile. We have also seen family conflicts where authorities of La République are brought by powerful family members, and other family members are disenfranchised from their land because of their association with Cameroon authorities. We have seen DOs and SDOs and commanders and governors become intermediaries in the acquisition and sale of land. So, and we are engaged in a war, and they have also sped up this acquisition and sale of land, which will become very problematic. So while we are dealing with a national issue of liberation, we are also dealing with micro issues of conflicts within our society associated with the very land that we are fighting for. So at the end of the day, who is going to own this land? Because at the end of the day in Zimbabwe, the people who fought and died for the land never had access to the rich pieces of real estate that could have given them access to the possibility of agriculture. We still realize that in South Africa, land is in the hands of powerful individuals, rich individuals, and it doesn't give access to the poor. So if we want a stable, independent Ambazonia, we must begin to address the issue of who owns the land in Ambazonia during this period of resistance. So that inspired us to ask the Justice Department of the Ambazonian Governing Council to look into this practice and codify it in a way that forestall the kind of outcome that we are afraid of.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I have people sent me some questions, and I will, if you don't mind, I would like to ask you this. Some people are of the opinion that the land is their inherited land given to them by their forefathers or their ancestors. So by right, they have every right to sell it to whoever they please. And so what do you have to say with this mindset, with people with this kind of mindset?
No, it's a national security issue.
Right.
You can't be in London and you have a house and a piece of land, you just do whatever you want. Every land in Ambazonia is a national treasure of the Ambazonian people. You own that piece of land. You don't have powers to design, any kind of house in any particular piece of land. You don't have the right to do whatever you want to do with a particular piece of land, especially if it becomes a national security concern that is going to affect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the state. So that argument is lame and should be dismissed immediately.
Okay, that's good. I hope Ambazonians, you're listening, and you've heard it from the leader himself. That is a very lame argument, and you should keep it where lame arguments are being kept. It should not come in the books of Ambazonia. And Mr. President, we've also had people have been using the current conflict in Ambazonia to really suppress those that are really in a very weaker position. We've seen, like you mentioned in your opening about the land issue, that individuals are now using their friendship or authority with DOs and other people, colonial DOs even within our territory, to seize land from people with the pretext that they are owing them certain amounts of money. But this same land was never even used as collateral for them to get this money from people. How do we address these issues that people are now using their high position or connection with other people to, to subject the weaker population of Ambazonia by seizing their lands?
Listen, that's why I said in one of my briefings that one of my advisors, I think was the education secretary, said we are already running an independent state. And it's a fact. We are adjudicating cases. And we have advised, and I hope the communications department, the law and justice, human rights and humanitarian affairs are listening to me to create a hotline and to provide our people with a hotline through which they can complain. We are dealing with cases, and we are referring those cases to civilian authorities. And when they cannot resolve those cases, our forces are going to go in and make sure that they are resolved. We are already doing that. This executive order is also critical, and that's why your office that speaks for my office must make sure that our people get this executive order. And I'm grateful that we're having this conversation so they understand the merit. It is not to intrude into people's private stuff, but for people to understand that your private stuff is directly connected to public issues. And we will not tolerate individuals who collaborate with the butchers of our people, using them to oppress and suppress others who are struggling to make a living. And that's why I have frowned at some of the practices of the Fund of Mancon, depriving women of farmland because he wants to pass it over to his cronies. So we are already doing a lot, but we need more education. Now, people need to buy into these things that we are saying because it's for their own long-term benefit.
Perfect. Okay. Are you done, Mr. President?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. And again, thank you for that, Mr. President. And I'm very happy with the message you sent out when it came regarding the Fund of Mancon on what he's doing to Ambazonian women. Our funds are supposed to protect us, people. Instead, he is out there oppressing people, and that is not what we want in liberated Ambazonia. So, Mr. President, you made mention of the act, not you, the act made mention of the fact that any land that is sold by an Ambazonian citizen to La Republic citizen, that land, it is strictly prohibited for any Ambazonian to sell land to any La Republic citizen. And also, what about the lands that have been sold to them in before the enactment of this act, and also they are now occupied by La Republic citizens? Some have built houses, have established businesses. How do you intend to recuperate
this act is retroactive. This act is retroactive. We are not going to allow Amazonian territory to be sold to the butchers of our people. We're going to confiscate this land.
Perfect.
And this is a strong warning to Cameroonians who are using the power of their purse and who are collaborating with enemy combatants and traitors of Amazonian people to acquire Amazonian property. We are going to confiscate those pieces of land, and we are going to use them to build homes for the homeless, people who don't have anything.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And also, the act also mentioned the fact that lands, especially that all those occupying lands in areas, reserve areas like the Tiko Airport, the Bisongabang Airstrip, the Nguti Airport, the Bali Airport, that all of this shall be dislodged. So what message these people are now coming out and saying that you have no right, it's their land, they own it, they bought it, and you cannot do anything about it. What message do you have, especially because it mentioned most of this, strategic...
and that's what I talked about, national security concerns.
Right.
So our airport is a national security issue. And you don't want your enemy having a prime estate overseeing your airport. They are Amazonian national reserves. These people have bought land around these national reserves. They're even undermining, the environmental protection in these reserves. They've been using their presence there to facilitate the deforestation in Amazonia. We are going to confiscate all these pieces of prime estate, and it's going to become state property, especially around these critical infrastructures, which are areas of national security for the protection of the Amazonian state. We are doing this early enough, so even these Cameroonians should begin to sell the lands back. And for all those who are enabling these practices, they are doing the same. Our land was taken over by these people, and leaders just sat there and facilitated, the total collapse of our institutions. And we are 60 years into practices of murder and rape, and we don't have any sense of pride and dignity and the protection of our own culture. We're just marketing the land to them. So what is it that we are not going to sell? Our soul? I mean, Amazonians, you want to sell everything. You sell your land, and then you come and hide in little spaces in other people's country. So these practices must be stopped.
Exactly. Okay. Mr. President, we know La Republicans they think they are smart, but the bread and sardine has already taken their smartness away. So with this public order, you will see some of them trying to sell these lands, the lands that they acquired from our people illegally, or just giving them nothing for the piece of land. They will now want to resell it to international organizations or international bodies or construction companies to be able to establish in those lands. What will still happen? So does this still stand with whether be it international organizations that bought those lands to operate in, or establish businesses or establish anything? Do you still pass that message even to international bodies that wants to buy property within Amazonia to do whatever, that land will be confiscated after independence?
Do you think the FACO Credit Union can just move into Washington and buy any piece of land without federal regulation being able to control who you are, where your resources are coming from, your assets, what's the purpose of your existence, all of those things? And you think Amazonian piece of land is just a place where the contract can be adjudicated by the local seller and the international buyer? All of these people who are exploiting, be they individuals, be they international companies, who are exploiting the vulnerability that we are going through today, they are taking a risk. And that's what, when I send out the message today, we know that Cameroon owns, for example, more than 40% stake in ENIO. For ENIO to exist in Amazonia, Cameroon must sell its own share to Amazonian civilian. Otherwise, we'll kick you out. This is our survivor. And People may look at it and say, oh, what's your business in it? 20 years, 30 years from today, our children will be asking, what the hell did you do when you saw these things happening? You call that this is my own village. I have no piece of land. You say this is my own country. I'm renting everywhere. You say this is my own country. We don't even have a piece of place to put an airport because the airport has been taken over by bandits. You say this is an agricultural piece of land that's meant for the CDC is a Bakwere land. Joel Litumbe took this case in the African Commission on Human and People's Rights and won this case. Bandits and thugs have been violating that ruling and selling this piece of land to the enemy. So if we don't do anything, we'll be in the same place as we are today, questioning what is it that Foncha could not stand his ground? Why did people not heed the warning of Endele?
Right.
So we are not only telling our people the practices that is going to affect them 20 years from today, we are taking a stand against it.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And this brings me back to our traditional rulers. Our traditional authorities have become the worst enemies of Ambazonians. They've oppressed our people even more than La République du Cameroon in some particular communities. We've heard of cases, people crying of how the fonds and chiefs of their communities have confiscated their lands, sold their lands to to multiple people, and all of these things. What message do you have to our traditional authorities, especially those that have even been put there by La République du Cameroon, about land confiscation and seizure within their communities? This message, what message do you have for them, most especially, Mr. President, because our people are dying and suffering in the hands of most of these traditional authorities?
These people are an aberration. They are an aberration. I reminisce the fund on so told Aijo that the fund does not move, the palace does not move.
Exactly.
I reminisce the bravery of rulers whom we revered. You remember, you could not even think that the quick fund was passing and you were around. They say you were going to burn into something else. Exactly. You could not imagine your own chief of fund giving a fist bomb to somebody. These people have humiliated us to the point where we become ashamed of ourselves. One of the pride of the Ambazonian has been sometimes the way some of our funds and chiefs had concocted themselves. It gave us pride. Now we are a universal laughing stock.
Puts our head in
shame. They have not ended there. They have now become businessmen. The supposed custodian of our culture that can only thrive on our piece of land have become the ones selling the same piece of land. No land, no culture. Okay? And so when I look at these things and everybody wants to associate them, oh, Ambazonians, no, it is not a question of Ambazonia. It's a question of our being. It's a question about our own dignity. It's a question about our own traditions. Whether Ambazonia or no Ambazonia, every people will strive to protect their culture. So if you have chiefs becoming mediators and intermediaries and facilitators to the wholesale mortgage of our piece of land, what kind of advice do you want me to give them? And that's why Ambazonians need to be educated, to take a stand, to speak out. And we are going to use the forces against them. We are going to use the forces against them. I have always said this. We are running a very difficult war. They laugh at us. They make a mockery of us. When John Frundi was in the barrack, that's when he realized that noise that he was making out there had its limit.
That's right.
When this lunatic Mundi was picked up, and I watched her on the video, and I looked at her face, and I look at the demonstration of power and invincibility that they showed when they are out there, you really know that all this noise that they are making, all these things that they are doing, when they will fall into our hands, and that possibility is there. Every day I get up, I'm trying to arrest these people. And we will set an example. And it's not because we hate them, but because, like your question, we cannot understand why in the 21st century, 2024, we are still so backward in certain practices. We give away everything without blinking. We give away our name. We embrace their anthem. We embrace their flag. We give away our land. We take them into our palaces. We give them our children. We turn our girls into their house girls. We turn our boys into everything. We give it up until we have come and said no. And what I tell you is this: even if we don't succeed, we will lay the foundation for the next generation to have something to work on, because we don't have anything we are working on.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. President. And again, a very last question before I allow you to summarize everything on this land issue. Ambazonia has become so diversified. We have nationals of La République du Cameroon in Ambazonia. We also have Nigerians in Ambazonia. We also have Biafrans in Ambazonia. Even foreign nationals like the Chinese and other people who have bought land and have established themselves in Ambazonia via businesses or building of homes and all of that. This message you're passing to La République citizens and people who are selling land illegally in Ambazonia and all of that, and the fact that all of this will be confiscated after a post-independent. Do you have the same message for Biafrans, Nigerians, other foreigners who have bought and established themselves in Ambazonia? Let them know what this is all about, Mr. President.
Yes. There is hard law and there is soft law. Most of the orders or act that we are putting out is focused on Cameroon. But it also applies in a subtle manner to other nationalities.
Right.
Because principally, it is focused on altering the attitude of the Ambazonian. That you should not simply just sell the Ambazonian land. Is part of the Ambazonian heritage. And if we determine any other nationality is engaged in a systematic practice to deprive Ambazonian of their national heritage, we will confiscate the land.
Right.
We will confiscate it. We are seeing certain practices in our territory. There are others that, for example, when it concerns the Biafran, we could have a bilateral discussions that the Biafran leadership will be able to educate their people on these concerns by us. Others that we do not have access to have conversation with their state, they should know through our public statements, our public acts, that using your power of the purse to enable the direct or indirect acquisition of Ambazonian prime estate in furtherance of any colonial practice or idea is criminalized by this act.
Perfect. That is very important for you to bring that clarity, Mr. President, because you remember a few months back, we also saw President Paul Kagame ousting the Chinese out of Rwanda because they bought land within Rwanda, enslaved Rwandans in that land, and then even fighting Rwandans over their own land in Rwanda. And he said, not in this country. So he said the land of Rwanda belongs to Rwandans. So you cannot come in, and we want to allow you to function. Then you want to take advantage of our land and want to take ownership. And so I wanted just for you to bring that clarity, because some of these people, when they come in and we allow them to, we become friendly and we allow them to own and function within our land, they want to now claim ownership over it. And I'm glad you brought that clarity so they know their place. So would you want to just give a 1 minute, 2 minute summary on this, just like you did with the manifesto, Mr. President? So we move to the next topic.
Yes, for our self-preservation, the Ambazonian must develop a mentality to safeguard and protect the treasures of Ambazonia for the next generation. This is important for our own humanity. We cannot be a people that market everything that we have to others and leave behind nothing for the next generation. We leave them in the jungle and they will be devoured and destroyed. And I think everybody, yourself, myself, we should begin from our families. Even if we become so broke that the last person standing in front of our house to get a piece of land is a Cameroonian, please call the hotline of the Ambazonian Governing Council. If you need by the medical bill, we will support you financially.
Right. Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And now I want us to move to talk about the Residency Permit Act. And I'm glad that you said something before you brought your conclusion that most of these things are targeted towards La Republic citizens who are in Ambazonia. And we want to talk about the Residence Permit Act. Mr. President, what is this Residence Permit Act that is... A lot of talks have gone out about the Residency Permit Act, but what is this Residency Permit and what is the purpose for this Residency Permit Act within Ambazonia?
If independence must mean independence, we must develop rules. We must acquire the authority to determine who comes in, who goes out, and who stays. That's normal. The point with Ambazonian is that they fight for independence, but they don't understand what they're fighting for. They don't understand the complex interwoven nature of the rules and tangible, idealistic, and material nature of the concept of independence. It's so complex, interwoven. They are idealistic and they are materialistic. So people have been focusing sometimes on the tangible. This is the land. Who has authority over that land? Who has authority over that land? And that's why we are trying to exercise authority. I hear you talk about taxi stuff. I know you want to go down all those parts. It's about exercising authority. You talk about taxation. It's about exercising authority. You know, so the residency permit law is to send a message to Cameroonians that you are in a foreign country and abide by the rules and regulations of that country. It's not only in the law about respecting it, it's also in the mindset. Everything is a mindset issue.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. So I think, like you said, it's exerting authority. Who owns Ambazonia and who makes the laws in Ambazonia? And that
Absolutely.
is they must have to understand, because like you said, if independence means independence, then they must begin to understand these things and follow the laws and the rules and regulations of Ambazonia. And if they don't want it, hello, please take your leave. This is what we are saying. So take your leave. We are happy to accommodate you in Ambazonia, but you must abide by the rules and regulations, how it is done in Ambazonia. So a few questions that were sent in for me in terms of this residency permit for you, Mr. President. And so somebody was asking that I should ask you this question, that how would the Residency Permits Act ensure that the application process is accessible to all eligible individuals, especially those in remote and the most, interior areas? How would this really work with people in those remote areas, and how do we intend to make sure that it is accessible by all?
I can assure you that most Cameroonians have escaped from the remote areas.
Perfect.
That's number one. The government of the remote areas does not include Cameroonians. That's number one. Number two, I think we've set an example with the taxation law,
Right.
that they will have access to, and that's why I have not signed it into law for it to be implemented, because the infrastructure for its implementation has to be properly developed. We need to have the card, we need to have the application procedure, we need to have a couple of critical infrastructures that support the implementation of the law. But the first thing we need to do is to begin to remind them that, hey, listen, if you are a Cameroonian, you are going to pay a residence permit. I think that is, I'm not quite sure what the law says, but 500,000 for adults.
Yeah.
And
300,000 for
yes,
women, and then 100,000 for students.
yes. And as you said it, hello, if you don't pay, so
get the hell out.
What do you think where you are, if you don't have residence permit, what do? They come and...
Oh, definitely, Mr. President. This is something that people must understand. There is no way you live in a foreign country where you don't have the right to live in that country, and you are even allowed to stay there. You get deported. It is that simple, Mr. President. It is that simple. You and I, we know this fact. So it cannot be different in Ambazonia.
That's it. Especially with people that are facilitating and enabling their own country to perpetrate genocide. These people have never raised their finger. They've never protested. You've never seen anybody resign because of the crime. Nothing they have ever done.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Mr. President. And again, there are some concerns in the area of eligibility criteria. So people want to know how this would definitely work, how do we determine eligibility for this residence permit? And for some of the La Republique citizens who are now married to Ambazonian citizens and have kids in Ambazonia, would their children fall under this category, or would their wives fall? So how are we going to determine criteria? Have you been able to, factor out any of this? I know that the head of the department is in the comment section firing. I hope he's hearing me and he can say something on this again.
Yes, if the head of department is there, he's going to expatiate on Section 2 of the Public Order Act,
right,
which is about citizenship, which defines who is an Ambazonian citizen. And so there are obvious clarity on certain individuals. There are certain individuals that it will be determined also by certain rules that are defined in Section 3 or Section 2 of the Public Order Act. And there are others also that it's, for example, a child born in Ambazonian with an Ambazonian parent and a Cameroonian parent is an Ambazonian child. But that also depends on what that Ambazonian determines for themselves, because there are Ambazonians who feel more Cameroonians than Ambazonians.
Exactly.
So those determinations will be done. I tell you, it's not difficult, because when we do implementation of the liberation tax, there is a body of rules that defines who is supposed to pay the tax, who is exempted from paying the tax. But there are certain practical decisions that are made on the spot. That you meet an old mama who should pay a tax, and you determine this mama hasn't got anything to eat. How do you expect this mama to pay a tax? So there are those kinds of exemptions that are made on the spot. Right. But there are general rules that define who is an Ambazonian is in Section 2 of the Public Order Act, and the Department of Justice will spell that out clearly so that it is going to help those who are doing implementation. Also, those who apply, you're going to see through the application. Cameroonians who apply. If you are arrested and you've not paid, and you say you are an Ambazonian, our soldiers will have access to determining that by looking at Section 2 of the Public Order Act.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I will just come back to our people again, because a lot of Ambazonians have risen and they are of the opinion that, these people have lived in the land for over all their lives. Some came in during the Makiza period. They've established themselves. They are not truly Ambazonians. But we all know, you and I, we know that most of them, when they are in the land, even when they die, they want their corpses to be carried back to their home communities or their home country to be buried there. That in itself is telling you that this person is just enjoying the benefits of Ambazonia, living in Ambazonia, because Ambazonia is peaceful. It has all the resources that they need to progress their lives. But when it comes to fighting for Ambazonia, they are no longer Ambazonia. But when it comes to benefiting from Ambazonian resources, they are Ambazonians. And when they even die, they choose to be buried in their home country. But still, some of our people are of the opinion that they've lived with us for so many years, so automatically they are Ambazonians. What do you have to say on this, sir?
That's why I said the act is very clear on that.
Right.
There are Ambazonians, there are foreign nationals who were born in Ambazonia before 1961, before 30th of September 1961. There are people that were born in Ambazonia as far back as after September 30th, 1961. There are people who have been resident in Ambazonia for as long as we know. We also make sure that the law is not in a way emotional, okay? Right. So we give a clear-cut determination about who an Ambazonian is. And the individual will have a right to make that final determination if they feel they are Ambazonian or they are Cameroonian. If a citizen or an individual from Cameroon has been seen as culpable in enabling through any kind of activity, your citizenship is revoked immediately and you will be seen as a foreign citizen. We are not going to bestow citizenship on individuals who are collaborators, even if they are Ambazonians. You know that right. Ambazonian collaborators are expelled from the land. So not foreigners who've lived in the land and continue to enable colonialism. There are other citizens who are opportunistic, but you cannot simply deny them citizenship because they profess their citizenship in binary ways. For example, you could be a Norwegian and be an Ambazonian. But when it comes to setting a judgment, what the law says will define that particular citizenship. But what you think cannot be seen from the perspective of the law.
Okay. So, Mr. President, will this act in any way, or the laws of Ambazonia, would it allow for dual citizens? Would they want to be part of the citizens of Ambazonia and still hold their nationalities as Cameroonians or Republicans, or you have to give away one to be able to own one?
I will not talk about that's a far reach for my powers at this particular moment. That will be determined by the Amazonian Constitution. But as far as I'm concerned, I think as captured in the Public Order Act, an Ambazonian is an Ambazonian. You cannot, especially during this period of liberation, be holding dual citizenship. You are an Ambazonian. Your allegiance should be to the Ambazonian state. And you cannot, when things are hot here in the kitchen, you're a Cameroonian, and when it's cool, you're an Ambazonian. So during this period, you are an Ambazonian or you are not.
You are not.
After full independence, the Constitution will be able to determine whether because there's so many of us are out, and I would think that there will be dual citizenship after independence, because if not, that would disenfranchise millions of Ambazonians who have been expelled from our country.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President. You know, these things is very important to pop up these questions so that people can begin to, anticipate and know what is expected of them or what they hope to get in the future Ambazonia. And also, questions came up about the processing time within the time that will be processed. What happened to these people? Do we send them to go and be in their country when we approve they come in? Which I gave some answers to some people, but because you're here on air, would you like to throw more light about the time period of regularization and then pending application? Are they allowed to be in the land? Are they allowed to go out and come back in? all of those stuffs, just for the resident permit, sir.
Yeah. I think that is reflected in the body of the. I think we discussed that. I don't think for logistics reason that you'll be able to send people out and then get them back in. We do not have that kind of infrastructural capabilities to deal with that.
Exactly.
I'm not quite certain, but we will look into the law. The Justice Department will provide me with clarity. My suggestion would be that we do escalatory form of implementation. People are allowed to make their application, and we process it and give them, either the residence or get them packing out of the country.
Right. Just to add to that, Mr. President, that the Justice Department already did that in the Public Order Act. They already stated very clearly that if this, I just brought that question because it was asked, and I just wanted so that people will have understanding on it. So once the application is being processed, they are legally allowed to stay in Ambazonia until a final decision is made.
Absolutely.
So that has already been well spelled out by the department. So thank you very much, Mr. President. On this residency, on this Resident Permit Act, Ambazonians have been worried and they're asking it is specifically to La Republic citizens. That's correct, right, Mr. President?
Yes, there was an argument between my office and the Justice Department. The Justice Department had provided clearly that if it is specifically targeting La Republic citizens, it will violate international law in terms of non-discrimination. And I submitted arguments to the contrary, that by focusing on particular individuals is not violating international practice of non-discrimination. And because in certain places, like we are out here, you are a foreigner, and you have different status from a citizen. You have different rights and obligations from a citizen. So it will be focused on the enemy. And you know who that enemy is.
Right.
Yeah, Cameroonians.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And also, in terms of the Resident Permit Act, the leader, the head of the department has just submitted a comment on the section which further clarifies what you and I we just said here. And he said they are allowed to resident in Ambazonia. I just put it up on the screen there. I hope you can see it.
Yes.
So that further brought clarity to that particular point that we raised. And now, Mr. President, I'd like us to move forward.
You have 15 minutes to keep me here. You're getting 2 hours.
No problem, sir. Thank you very much for even giving me that much time. I know you're very busy. So I'm just going to quickly bring you to we've discussed a lot on the Public Order Act, and so I don't think we'll just go back into it because it will just be repetitive. And but we want to talk more about the liberation tax and also the yellow taxi color. And then I want to bring you very specific questions on international connections, Mr. President. The liberation tax over the past 2 years has been very successful. And people came to question the liberation tax, but everybody is embracing the liberation tax. But in your own opinion, how far are we with the liberation tax, Mr. President? How has it impacted us as Ambazonians, and what message has it further passed across to the enemy as people fighting for the freedom?
Authority. This is, there is something that we've never really had. Authority over the enemy.
Right.
Yes. I don't look at the money. We've mobilized money and we've put part of the money in good use. It's been very helpful. But we have instituted a practice that has elevated Ambazonia and asserted Ambazonian authority over Ambazonians and against the enemy.
Right.
That is the practice of instituting a body of law that is respected by our people, that has angered the enemy, that has created reaction from the enemy, and that has projected the Ambazonians' power over its territory. This is an impact that cannot even be measured at this particular moment. Historians will capture this moment as very crucial in Ambazonian nationalism. And Secondly, and lastly,
Yes.
this practice has been able to create an interaction between our forces and our population that did not exist.
Exactly.
A one-to-one sense of accountability. I give my money, you give your tax receipt. Even amongst us, you are aware of that.
Yes.
We see in the tax room, when we send in tax, you see how people are excited. You
Exactly.
see they're asking the chair lady of the tax team to issue a receipt. And you find that when we delay issuing receipt, how people are angry. People start,
Exactly.
that is what we want to institute in our country, where there is accountability. And I think, and I really hope that Amazonians will savor this moment in our struggle. It's going to be something in the future history books of our country.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. When you were talking, I was just smiling because it brought a sense of ownership and liberation to our people. You see people paying their liberation taxes, those back home, the same people that some were acclaiming and saying, oh, we are overtaxing our people, we are causing more suffering to our people. People back home are asking when they have to pay, when they're forgotten that the time they are supposed to pay that 10,000 is for the whole year, and that 3,000 is for the whole year. They're still asking, when next am I paying, forgetting that they've already paid for the whole year. That is how much they are really interested in contributing to the liberation of their homeland. And a lot of them use their tax receipt as proof, and they still use it as a laissez-passer too. We've heard stories of women presenting their tax receipt to La Republique military, telling them, this is my ID card. And they said, no, that one is Amazonian ID card, not Cameroon ID card. We want Cameroon ID card. So it has been a very successful journey, Mr. President, and we cannot thank you enough for bringing up this very, intuitive policy that has helped shape Amazonians, has made people to be part of the revolution, own their own liberation, participate in fostering the liberation of their own country. And this is the same thing that has come up with the yellow taxi color. We've seen a lot of success. We have a lot of success stories with the liberation tax. But the taxi colors, we have drummed it over the past 2 months. Mr. President, from your own evaluation, what do you think, how successful...
One moment, just give me a moment.
No problem,
sir. Bring down my charger from the living room, please. Sorry, my computer is running out of charge. All right.
Sir.
Okay. The taxi color. As I said before, plug it in there. The taxi color is also an issue of authority. And as I said before, we all got up one morning and realized that the soldiers of Mezam had come together and decided that the taxi color has to be changed. They wanted to challenge anything that they believe even resemble any of the colors of the Cameroon flag. And I had a big fight with them, but I thought, if we are going to practice a system of governance where power actually belongs to the people, where authority does not flow only from the top to the ground, it can also flow from the ground to the top. And then you can also embrace some of the things they have put in place and help shape it in a way that conforms not only with domestic practices, international rules and norms, and also is understandable by our population. And we knew, I remember I was advised by 2 gentlemen. They said, CIC, just stay calm now. Because if you utter any word concerning this taxi color issue, they will forget about the taxi color issue, will be AYABA from morning till evening. I came to you people said, no, for the moment. And let's allow the forces to do their implementation. Let's not adopt it as a policy. And I told you people in the executive that that's fine, but I will support the forces publicly. So people have not understood these things. But what has happened Any conversation we generate about our struggle is important for our struggle, whether it's negative, whether it's positive. What really matters is how leadership takes that conversation and concludes on it. And that's what we have done. We've allowed a conversation. People were angry. They said they were going to come to Norway and kill me. They said, I am seeing their frustration about something that they feel they are powerless to change. But through their communication, whether negative or positive, they are altering perception, they are altering implementation practices, they are altering even some of the bodies of laws that have already been constituted. It even led to La République organizing a demonstration in Bamenda. That tells you where the government is.
Exactly.
Yes. So we took our power in our land to decide that the taxi colors have to be changed, and they will all be changed. Implementation started 2 days ago in Bui. We're still having recalcitrant drivers in Mezam and different parts, but we are going to change every color.
That's right. That's right. And the people who have changed the colors have done so excitingly, Mr. President. It's not like they've been they did it under duress or anything. They also understood the message. The call came, they understood the call, and they took it and they ran with it. That is the most beautiful
and
thing.
They also accepted their power. You don't understand
exactly.
It. Like,
exactly.
Now I have power. I'm gonna change you. What the hell are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's my taxi. You can't deny me from doing what I want to do with my own car.
So, it's the same like the number plate. When we put in the number plate, and La République authorities, they were making noise, and a couple of women told them, "You are making this noise. You cannot drive in town with a CA number plate."
Exactly.
And they shamed them, and they all shut the hell up.
And it's the same thing they try to, destroy the institution of the Country Sunday. For over how many years? They did everything in the past to destroy the institution of Country Sunday, but they've never succeeded because our people are determined. This is the good thing about this Amazon, this never again generation. And I like the way you always come up with these terms, like you encourage people. They know we are now the never again generation. Whenever they feel weak, they remember it. We are the never again generation. We cannot be like the Funchas. We cannot be like the Endeles. And this is what keeps our people going, Mr. President. And I think Ambazonians have not just been patient enough, or some Ambazonians have deliberately refused to see what you are doing for the liberation of our homeland. But in all of it all, like you said, they pray more for you than those of us that we even stand with you here on shoulder to shoulder. And now, Mr. President, let's talk about, because I don't want to dwell much on the taxi color and liberation tax. The message has been passed, the people have received it, and they're running with it. All what we can do is support them with it, encourage them, and show them the path to go about with this. Let's talk about international relations in just 1 minute or two before you go. I know that a few days ago you announced in the House, in the cabinet, well, in the Leadership Council, that the Basque has invited us again for the annual celebration. Is this something you want to talk about it here on air, Mr. President?
Oh yeah. Last year I was. We have very good working relations with the Basque, and the president of the Basque country invited us last year. I was there, and we've just received another invitation to attend the annual anniversary celebration, and we will be going there. We are building these bilateral relations also to strengthen Ambazonian nationalism and to project Ambazonia to peoples across the globe. And this year will be particularly important because we are pushing very hard for different countries and self-governing territories to recognize Ambazonia's right to self-determination. It is important in sending a strong message to Cameroon about resolving the conflict.
Perfect. We've had this beautiful relationship with the Basque, and we also had very beautiful relationship with Somaliland in the past. I don't know how much we still have that relationship with them. And these are countries that also fought for their own recognition for a very long time. So are we seeing this possibility of having this in a long-term recognition and all of this stuff, Mr. President, with these countries?
We are developing a policy of escalatory recognition.
Right.
And we'll be making the argument. The Justice Department the Secretary General has just set up a working group that will put together the argument for escalatory recognition.
Okay.
Number one, based on international law principle, also captured in Section 2 of the manifesto, the right of our people to exist for self-preservation and external self-determination. Okay. This is important in altering the attitude of Cameroon, altering the attitude of other international bodies and states on the conflict. And once that is done, it will change the calculation of the enemy. It will change the way it conducts itself with respect to Amazonia. Okay. We think that's the first step in ensuring that there is the respect for the recognition of our humanity, which is what Cameroon has never done. So when they describe us as 2 cubes of sugar, they think we are dissolvable. When they describe us as Biafrans, they think genocide must be visited on us.
Right.
The absence of the recognition of our humanity has made Cameroon play all sort of shenanigans in the last 30 years. Commission year, this day, because they have not truly respected us as human beings, that they should be able to engage in finding a solution to a conflict that has cost the lives of so many thousands of people. And we want to use a novel strategy in line with our internationalization and targeted diplomacy to be able to get the international community to take a stand.
Okay. Mr. President, over the last few years, 2 years or so, we've had a very beautiful working relationship alliance with the Biafrans. Ambazonians are expecting to see more of these alliances, but then with the Biafran alliance, do you think the Biafran alliance, like they will always say, is it a curse or a blessing for the Ambazonian revolution?
It's a blessing. It's a blessing from both the strategic perspective and both the futuristic perspective. We had Abuja having a very strong relationship with Yaoundé, and that relationship translated in the arrest, kidnapping, and rendition of Amazonians. That relationship worked in allowing Cameroon forces to make incursions into Biafra land and being able to attack, kill, or kidnap Amazonians. So we altered that perspective immediately because Nigeria had put its hand clearly on which side it stands in the conflict. Exactly. And we made sure we give them a hot potato to deal with. And so when they have this hot potato at home, they will not be thinking about trying to destabilize Amazonia. And so what does the future hold? It is 70 million Biafrans. Millions of them are resident in Amazonia doing business and things like that. And those are the people that we should be working with. Nigeria is working in the north with Niger. Benin is working with Benin. Biafra has only Amazonia to deal with. So it's been a blessing. It's just that we've conducted ourselves based on fear. Building relationship, being a friend with another does not make you an enemy to the other. And if that person wants to consider you as an enemy, that's up to them. We are a friend to the Biafrans. We believe in the self-preservation of the Biafran people. And we think that the Biafran people alone will determine what they want. If they want independence, it's up to them. It cannot be determined by Amazonia. If they want a confederation, they want a federation in Nigeria, that's up to them. But we cannot sit with a neighbor with one of the most powerful blocks in the continent and refuse to establish a working relationship that will be for mutual benefit.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And to the question that everybody has now been asking in recent days, that there has been a geopolitical shift in West Africa, and the Sahel nation have risen, and they decided to form their own confederation to stand for one another. And people are asking, since these leaders are also having the same views, they have common interests, they suffer the same fate, like Ambazonians have suffered in the hands of La Republique and others. are there any strategic alliances that you're trying to build with leaders of countries like Burkina Faso, Niger, Guinea, Mali, and all of these countries that form part of this Sahel Confederation?
Amazonians, when people have fought their own battles and they have elevated themselves to some place, that's when we are running to them. We are running to them. You know, let's go and have a piece of the cake that we think they are having. I think it's a good thing. What those gentlemen, some of them are almost like one of them could be my son. Trust me. A few years ago, I think I've spoken about this. I was with the wife of Thomas Sankara. I was fighting for the justice for the Sankara family. And so I was a keynote speaker in a conference in Munich that had her there and had their lawyer. And the uniqueness of the Sankara betrayal was something that really captured my imagination. And the uniqueness of his political vision, economic vision, is something that also captured my imagination. But more importantly, the fact that he was betrayed by a close friend and killed. And to have met his wife, I thought it was an honor. A few years after, I sat on the same table with late Pierre Buyoya, the former president of Burundi, and the former vice president of the Congo. We were in the same conference in Berlin. Why I bring these stories is some of the kind of background things that are unique in what you just asked. Yeah. In this conference, I was asked to help the vice president of the Congo to translate from he was speaking in French, if I could translate into English. And he was simply just begging the Germans. He was like, he's begging the Germans to come and support the Congo, that they are suffering. And I couldn't really translate that shit. I couldn't. It was so difficult for me to translate that shit. And so I was doing my own translation. And I was like, when he says he's begging the Germans to come and help, and I was like, he's asking the Germans that based on the historical practices of colonialism, the Germans have an obligation to and the former president of Burundi was laughing the whole time. Because people in the hall were like, why is he laughing? And I have a picture of the three of us. Immediately we finished the session, the three of us just went out and we were still laughing the whole time. Somebody captured a picture of the three of us. that is the kind of Pan-Africanism that these gentlemen have instituted. We are watching. It's bravery of an extraordinary proportion, and bravery that transcends the kinds of practices that we've seen before, where people take over power, they are interested in entrenching themselves, they have no ideology that their actions is anchored in, they have no vision that they are working towards. And the evolution that we are seeing is unique. And my hope is that they are going to take it forward. Yes, with respect to what they have formed, we hope, and we'll be getting the State Department to write to them to establish an observer status for self-determination entities within the continent, to have an observer status within the new bloc. That is going to be very meaningful for them, because if they don't also do so, these enemy blocks, these plantation overseers, they will try to bond themselves to undermine their viability. But right. if they open it up for non-recognized state to have observer status, it begins to bring a new flair into it. I've already notified, I wouldn't go into that further, but you should be rest assured, and Ambazonians must be rest assured that our vision for the continent is a vision of Pan-Africanism that prioritizes the nation's right to survive and exist as a prerequisite for the survival of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism must be anchored in the nation's right to self-preserve and self-replicate itself in whatever way, shape, or form. Its independence shall not be undermined for the success of a Pan-Africanist vision that brings together the different nations. And I think that if the vision of the new bloc is anchored in this particular thinking, then an innovative thinking that does not replace the nation with a Pan-Africanist vision, then I think they are in the right direction.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. But, whenever people who know you, people who have worked with you, or people who have followed you, when you speak, and when they listen to the likes of Ibrahim Traore, I mean, like, I focus more on him because I see a young man with a vision for his country who loves his nation. He wants to see that what is produced in their country stays. And this is what you've always been drumming in Ambazonia, the resources of Ambazonia that have been exploited from Ambazonia and have been transported, ferried to other countries. And this young man is also, he has the same kind of vision that you have for Ambazonia, preparing Ambazonia for Ambazonian, the resources managed within us, produced and we decide the prices by ourselves, not that our raw material. I hear you most of the time talking about how a farmer in Ambazonia who produces cassava must have the value of that cassava in Ambazonia, make sure that they produce gari from that cassava that is worth the price that they produce it. And this is the kind of things that this guy is preaching. We see him, promoting local productions, encouraging local farmers to set up their own businesses. And we truly hope, like you said, Mr. President, that the State Department will is working on that, and you've already established that contact, especially because you already did something with the wife of Thomas Sankara, who he's also following suit with the vision of Thomas Sankara. So we hope that we will, in the next future, hear something about the alliance between these countries and how we can really work to liberate our people and oust any foreign power in our countries the same way they are doing. And that said, Mr. President, thank you very much. I don't want to go much into any other thing like what we are preparing for October. Or do you want us to throw any light on that part, the organization, what we are preparing, the in conference and all of that stuff?
We'll deal with that. We will
in a separate conversation.
Yeah. Once the leadership is fully briefed, then
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. So now I will want to give it to you for 2 minutes. I hope I respected the 15 last minutes you gave me to give us a closing remark on this very important conversation that we've had today. It has been an amazing conversation.
Thanks a lot, Piers. First, I'd like to thank you very, very much for making this interaction very, very interesting. And I encourage you to continue to do it often with other leaders of our movement and our community, and to bring the beaming smile and happiness for people to understand, the joy in the Ambazonian journey. I really think this conversation it exposes a lot to our people. And as I said in my outing the other day, Ambazonia will be recognized. It's not a joke. They will be recognized, and freedom in independence will be achieved. And so I invite each and every one of you to be part of this journey. Don't think so much about the destination. Focus on the journey. Be a part of the never again generation that alters the fate of our people. Don't sell our land to butchers and traitors. Don't mortgage the future of the unborn to the people who've kept us in slavery and servitude. Be an anchor for values that can free the Ambazonian people. We will always have differences in policies, in style and approach. Those difficulties, they lay the foundation for us to understand each other. There is no household without conflict, without quarrel. How you conduct yourself during that conflict determines who you are rather than the outcome of the conflict. We are on the right course. Pay your liberation tax. As I said before, if 200,000 of you sat one day and pay your liberation tax, we are going to capture part of Douala, hold it until these people pay us reparation for years of impunity. We are on a journey that has been very exciting, though very painful. And for those who are in jail, we have an obligation to make sure they are free. For those who have died, we have an obligation to honor their memory. For the families that are suffering because they've lost their children, they have their kids in jail, we have an obligation to let them know we will not give up until they find justice. And for all of us who are fighting, we have an obligation to ourselves too, to live in a better country, to our children to know where we come from and what we are leaving behind. That is a pride. Even on your dying bed, you will go down being proud of the work that you've done. And for myself, I'm a steward in this journey. I've never blinked, as the PS has said. Don't expect me blinking anytime soon.
That's right. Thank you very much, Mr. President. That was the best way to close it. We will not expect you blinking anytime soon. I know even if we force you to blink, you tell us that you can all go. I will stay. I will be a lone wolf in this journey. So thank you very much, Mr. President. It was truly an honor to have you. Ambazonians are proud of you. And like I always say, we are truly indebted to you in gratitude for all what you do for Ambazonia. And may the Almighty God, the one that knows the end from the beginning, the one that has always given you strength and given you the wisdom and the knowledge to lead your people like Moses led the people of Israel, may he continue to guide and protect you until we get to Boya and sing hip, hip, hip.
Hooray.
Hooray. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Fellow Ambalanders, thank you very much for your time and thank you for watching. You heard the leader of the Ambazonian War of Liberation. You heard everything he said. He gave you details of all the questions that you've asked and brought clarity to most of the topics that people felt were not very clear to them, and will continue to come to you with different to further educate on these topics, the laws that have been passed, the acts, the decrees, whatever that comes out from his office will come out and give you more clarity on it. And before you go, please kindly subscribe, kindly like and share this video. Statistics on this channel shows that more than 89% of people just watch and leave. They don't subscribe, they don't like, they don't comment. So please don't be that person that just sit and watch. Just kindly subscribe, kindly like and comment, and also bring up topics that you would like us to discuss. And to you, Emmanuel Saku, on these items that you're looking for, if you have a way to contact me, I can promise you, you will get them in a blink of an eye. So kindly contact me if you want any of this. The t-shirt, as you can see, I have my own Ambazonia Shake No Day. I can definitely get you one. If you want the flags, if you want table flags, if you want wall flags, if you want teacups, Ambazonian teacups, and all those stuffs, you can definitely reach out to me and I will direct you on how to get them, or I can get them to you. So thank you very much for your time, and may God continue to bless you. And for all those who are in prisons, like the president said, we think of you, refugees, we think of you, mothers in the communities. Don't think that we do not see your suffering. We do, and we are doing everything in our part to make sure that Ambazonia is totally liberated so we can all dwell in our homeland in harmony and in peace like we did before. So God bless you all, and short live the struggle, but long live Ambazonia. One for all and all for one. God bless you.
Glory, we the Amazonians, special loyalty, presence to our Savior. flowing rivers of glory. Glory, glory, glory to the Father for making you a nation, a joy forevermore. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our need. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our need. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation.
Peuple camerounais, je vous adresse ces messages de réveil des consciences révolutionnaires. Je m'appelle Kangfak Nguku Isidore, originaire de la région de l'Ouest. Peuple camerounais, aujourd'hui le monde nous considère comme un peuple le plus peureux et le plus mouton de la planète, face au régime de Biya qui a reçu de nous beaucoup de sacrifices, mais continue à nous piétiner. Défunt Charles Ateba Eyene nous avait prévenu en disant ceci: ce régime va nous demander nos poumons, nos reins et nos foies un jour. Les deux régimes, Ahidjo et Biya, nous ont baissés. Ils nous ont baisés par la nousse, par les narines, par la bouche et continuent à nous baiser avec les multiplications des taxes et les hausses des prix des premières nécessités interminables. Après 64 ans de l'indépendance, il n'y a pas les routes, il n'y a pas l'électricité, il n'y a pas l'eau. Nos intellectuels nous ont déçus à 1000%. Voir comment ils pleurent dans les plateaux de télévision réclamant un code électoral consensuel. Et le régime Biya sait très bien que accepter cela, c'est signer son arrêt de mort. Ce régime est toujours prêt à sacrifier nos enfants dans les sales guerres qu'il déclare partout. Les peuples ambazoniens nous ont montré de quoi ils sont capables. Ils nous ont dévancés en prenant leur destin en main par les armes. La question est ceci: à quand notre tour? C'est maintenant et tout de suite. Nous allons prendre les armes pour se libérer. Nous allons effacer cette image où on nous considère comme un peuple plus peureux et plus mouton de la planète. Partagez au maximum, s'il vous plaît, parce que nous allons pas laisser faire. Trop, c'est trop avec ces régimes. C'est maintenant ou jamais. Je vous remercie.
Fellow Amazonians, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you be across the globe. I've been a logistic chief for ADF. I come here today to deliver a short message, and the title for that message now, courage. Courage to the Amazonians. Courage to the nationalists. I come today to preach the word and the gospel for courage, determination, and focus. Now, wait till I come today for talk for people. Fellow Amazonians, genuine freedom for people never ever be handed to them. Go for the history for the world, for the four corners of the world. If you talk about freedom, any genuine freedom, it never ever be handed to a people. You read about the storming of the Bastille. You read about the Haitian Revolution. You read about the American Revolution. But if you fight for their independence, nowhere for this world we don't fight for genuine independence. I mean, no be thing where they hand, because any form of independence, we are oppressed hand over to you. Being a third party, it asks for it to be a cut in it. If we understand what we genuine freedom mean, we get to come to the realization, we get to do this by ourselves. And every bit, it counts. When I see the Francophonie country, how do you call them? They explode across Africa, like Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, because their freedom will be genuine. The rap oppression, rap enslavement in another form, kind of most Africans. If we be bent and we mean, so one will be free. We have to understand the cost. What it will cost me to be a free nation. I can't forgive courage, determination, to preach the gospel for courage, determination. Make we no give up. The ideology for freedom don't be embedded in us. Now we will continue to fight for it. We will genuinely deserve it. If you believe, now two kinds of live in this world. You either be a master to take charge of your destiny, or you be led by your slave masters. We live in a very interesting time for this world. Now cowards, they go cower. Put their head for inside sun. Things that when they wake up, the problem will be solved. Amazonians, with freedom, they for hands. As the president talk, we get up, we admire other nations, we stay with some of them. We will look at the history of how they fight to change the course of their destiny. It will be a day's walk. It wasn't a walk in the park. there were moments of uncertainty. When I hear America, the Battle of Boston, they will lose that battle. It will be a very determined step for them to define their independence. But they continue with a little mind of hope and believe in which they fight for their independence from the British. And they keep that light shining till they free themselves. And we get every tool available to free ourselves. We don't get no excuse for me for no fight for freedom. At times, when this revolution we started pick up steam for 2016, a lot of us will laugh, will write articles and make fun of who founding fathers then. Oh, why they do this? Why they be easily hoodwinked? We get the resources. Now laziness go make we go back off for fight for own freedom. Freedom will be cheap. It will not be cheap. But I come here today to preach the gospel of courage, hope, determination, and focus on which we want. We get to put footprints away. Future generation will stand. Will talk, say, my ancestors were here. Now the only thing that we will get up, not be money. Rich man died tomorrow, they forget about it. But your footprints will leave up to give a better life. We are future generation. We will talk about you for generations upon generations to come. We live in America, we all see about Abraham Lincoln, the founding fathers of America, Thomas Jefferson, all those ones. We hear Thomas Jefferson and the crew. We are the founding fathers for America. We hear about them. They still talk about it 200 years ago, more than 200 years till today. We hear the Haitians. They talk about Dessalines. Since 18 something till today, they get founding fathers. We hear about Patrice Lumumba, where all over Africa talk about it because it stands for a people. Look how much we get, but the courage and the determination to free people that make their names still be engraved in the indelible tombs, memory tombs. We hear about Thomas Sankara till today, and they will talk about Thomas Sankara for generations to come. Look at how rich he will be. But now wait till even go off a country, Burkina Faso. Amazonians, freedom not cheap. Freedom not cheap. I want to take today, I just can't forgive courage, determination, and focus. All we go for this commit for this upcoming October 1st, where they come. We freedom make our hands. Now we go determine whether we want to be free or not of a language, these stateless citizens. The one good thing where I see I'm so far now for ground, now the consolidation and coordination of the forces, the fighting forces for ground. It will give you hope. Case in point, I will speak for my own state, the great state of Boy, as the coordinator for ADF for Boy, which I can see the high level of interaction amongst the ADF force and other forces in Boy. It be promising. I come today to tell the fighting forces and courage, brothers. We will not forget there were people who jail them for nothing. Or will not be impacted by this barbaric regime. It be remote control, the true talk by their colonial master France. But we get the capability to beat them. I get a cousin when we come up to check on something for you on the one came a cash 3 years ago. He did for jail just because he come from Amazonia. He no commit no crime. He only came and see the Amazonian. How many of we get that kind of stories then? How many of we will future don't be derailed by this evil regime? How many of you don't die across oceans? How many of the people they be used, abused for Middle East? The sky. When I think, nobody will destiny this. Some of us they out would yearn to go back home, for a free home. Amazonians, I come today to give them courage. To preach the gospel of courage, determination, focus, and believe in ourselves. We don't see all kinds of things inside the revolution. I always talk in my video and say, so many people talk Amazonia, but nobody Amazonians. We don't get there. And no part for this war, for the history of the war, where an ideology for freedom don't be defeated. We get all the tools available. We don't pretend Amazonians. We get all the tools available to be free. Every tool available. The end is defeatable. But as we talk, we don't want to join up, understand, say, we feel that we'll go come from outside. We don't be mortgage, we feel that, oh, I'll sort them for any person. Now we're supposed to make a determination for free ourselves. We don't get about 8 years of learning for this revolution. 8 years of history, recent history. I don't want to talk one thing. The ground will change a lot because of the policies and way the AGOVs put on the ground. Liberation tax and other policies. Some people they will see good policy in place for implement them, but just the name AGOV. It make them they no one to do one. We don't become fight for name, we can't free land. You know, I will still go back. Something in the way will be here in the music. But I want to talk. So one speech, so one particular speech with the president of AGOV city ever make up for New York. I want to look into that again. We'll analyze them bit by bit. If we talk security, it's not going to be a walk in the park. It will be a hard struggle. It will be very nice sounding. Some of us, yeah. But this is what he meant. I don't talk for every revolution. I will give them time when I will be met with the spirit of despair. When I don't know left and right. We don't know whether how it's going to end. But the focus now say we must be free. When I don't test the consequences for stay under a bad regime like Retroactive. We don't get no choice. We'll be bought a one-way ticket. The ticket for freedom. When I see this, you don't weed out a lot of people. Then people when I see they don't fall out, turn for the smoosh with the enemy. Now that kind of power monger, the people they will like look around, it infect them. That the disease will infect them in us. Power, thief, easily brought out. When I say they don't feel itself, weed itself out, and they focus determine one them. That they see stand, that they hold the fort. And they still be strong. We still be strong, capable, and able. I will play this video again. Now, a video for courage. And I want to pick certain salient words them. With the president of AGOV CEB talk. It will sound like just sentences in maker. But I want to the call for now. Wait till we be see. Wait till we foresee. And wait till we go through. But the end result I say we will be free. Being for this generation or the one to come. A mighty country like the US, it be a small country, smaller in wealth than Amazonia. And they become a whole mighty Britain, where they get the biggest sea fleet, they get the but they be beaten. Mighty America, he entered Afghanistan for oppress them. 20 years and counting, they run for daylight out of Afghanistan. If you don't see mighty nations, they collapse in the eyes of a few where they believe in freedom. One more like Cameroon. Amazonia will get the resources for free themselves. We get the resources. Who no pretend? Now just a little bit of commitment into this revolution. I will be free. It was going to be a hard struggle. We must be prepared for the next 10 years. You must psychologically your mind. If it happened before then, the next 10 years, we must be inside this very mix. We will stay focused, resilient for this. One of the most proudest people, I don't see them across as I move around across the US, are Eritreans. Very proud people, upright people with dignity and integrity. The next one we see, I mean, Burkina Faso people. Them. Eritreans are the most dignified people I don't come across because they fight for their independence by themselves. We get a lot of template to copy on for free ourselves. We don't claim we don't get resources. We don't claim we don't get the necessary tools that we use them. With freedom, they for we hands Amazonians. We either be free or we'll continue to gobble up on the balls of a slave master for the continue to live the derail future, the destroy in the future. Tomorrow they go ask we. We don't give them the opportunity to fight the battle. We'll give them the opportunity for build Amazonia. We know we put ourselves position where they go ask we. So wait till we do. The functions they will put a and the endless they will put the blueprint for a nation for we. They will leave Nigeria with a lot of uncertainty. They will be attacked. They will be undermined. But they will give the courage to come out to create a state. We state. And they have rolled out the plan. We, at this police generation, will get the resources to fight the enemy. Now we'll tap that. And the future generation, they are responsible for build Amazonia. We, for this generation, must look into the mirror and look at ourselves. We task for Amazonia to fight. The fighting generation this for Amazonia. We don't get anything for other Amazonia just for fight. This generation go to sacrifice it all for free the land, for the future generation can build Amazonia. We must implant our mind. We must get the fighting spirit, the fighting mind. This is the fighting generation of Amazonia. Not the building one. And the fighting generation is for Amazonia. Because we get every resource and tool to free the land. We ancestors, they know we outsource the creation of Amazonia for the future generation. This generation will outsource the fight for the future generation. We will fight the fight. That we must play. And we don't play. Now we turn. We turn and they turn to fight. Don't forget about anything. Keep your mind aside. Now the green ones and the dirty ones, they say the charms, they kind of thing say, oh, they rush to power. When I say they don't fall out, this generation for Amazonia will be built for fight. Now the soldier generation for Amazonia, you must put up your side. He say you come to fight. Now the fighting generation, this for Amazonia, not the building one. Profiteer they don't come. But who understand deep inside, this is the fighting generation for Amazonia. No place for bill. We get nothing for bill. All the resources we don't get for we now for fight. The future will build. Who would have himself mind? Will live throughout life for fight. And the future can build Amazonia. There's no way out. There's no way out. Running out of Amazonia will be the solution. Make I take this last time. I still play the president his speech. Some piece in there where I go cut them. I go stop, I go talk about it. Then we'll continue.
To tell the United Nations that the land they mortgaged to Cameroon will be recaptured by the brilliant people of Amazonia.
Right! Yes!
That the complicity they had with the United Kingdom will be dampened. That your spirit, the indomitable spirit that has led you from your homes right here to this plaza, will not be extinguished by the banality of evil installed in our homeland. That the spirit that has awakened from the dusty streets of Mutengene to the alleys of Bamenda will not be squashed by the brutality of Cameroon, the complicity of the United Nations, and the utter silence of the United Kingdom.
We don't experience them at the beginning of this revolution. We cry for streets for the West. We go naked. We turn Takumben for streets. When they come out, nothing. Now the country will tell us, say, we roll for never fight. No man will come for help now. Ambazonians, there is nobody coming to save you. You will have to fight this by yourself. Let's call this generation the fighting generation of Ambazonia. And that's our responsibility. We don't get no two choice. It talk. The complicity be across the world for keeping global day. Not only we, the sub-Saharan Africans, will put that position in it. But you know, will be a slave and you'll be comfortable in your position. No. As dignified Ambazonians, we deny. The egg of sea, we dignified members, we deny to take that position for life, for light. We were not created to be slaves. That's why we are rebelling and fighting. And we will die fighting. We will die fighting. That the fighting generation is for Ambazonia. Make we put an imprint of our mind.
For the blood of our people spilled, for those who've gone before us, we stand like valiant soldiers to lay our lives to ensure that their blood wasn't spilled in vain.
And I will task that. All of us for this generation must be fighters. We must fight in every way, shape, or form. We must fight in every way, shape, or form. Tomorrow, me personally, I leave footprint with Ambassadors that we can't see and talk serious. They giving as much as they can for freedom. Wait till you be your own role.
That didn't die in vain. That the mothers who scream for their daughters, the fathers who are on the shore where their kids are detained, wouldn't mourn in vain.
And a lot of us, they don't kill a lot of us, but they will drag people out of jail since 2015, 2016. And before then, we are not even aware, we don't know where our children are. We don't know where some of them are. Some of them are still being whisked up and killed and thrown away. As an upright human being, now place as Ambassadors for continue to fight for justice for those people. We will fight as long as we breathe.
I have come here as a soldier of the revolution. Yes. I have come here to assure you that this is just the first step to internationalize our struggle, to make the international community understand our pain, the pain of the mothers, the yearning of the fathers, and the doubts plastered on the faces of our kids. That the land, the 43 square meter land that we own, will not be mortgaged, will not be taken by any other country. That we are ready. That we will fight block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, until the day, as the last speaker said, we will be able to install a government in Boya.
And it shall happen. It will come to happen by any means necessary, by any means possible.
government for the Amazonians, a government by the Amazonians that is going to speak for us, fight for us, make treaties for us. We are not going to allow an alien dominating power from Yaoundé to decide our future, decide the curriculum of our education, decide which language we speak in our courts. And if the lawyer said no, right from here in New York, we send a message to Yaoundé that we are ready for the gendarmes, the bee, and all the evil spirits that have been installed in our home.
And we have proven that we are ready. Now, why that way? They need a pass for some neighborhoods. Now, why that way? We don't put them under check. Those walls may become just because they be beautiful. We are doing it. I don't talk say Ambassadors get every tool way it requires to be a free nation. Now, just so some of us be lazy for understand. We get every resources for free ourselves.
That we will give our life for a free Amazonia.
And now this generation, if you live for this generation, you want to get a meaning, you must put up your mind. We'll be prepared to fight the last blood, last man standing for give full life. Because this, I want to say, a fighting generation is for Amazonia. They don't lay the blueprint for land. They sit down for we. We the fight to take them back. The fighting generation is. We don't feel look left, look right, or outsource this thing. We have to recommit. We don't get no choice. No, but staying out, it will make you think say you be free. For other people that land. We act like leeches for that people that land. When our place put that work, go back for one land. That is one thing. You know, the world thing will be the benefit of people fight to take over our land. You live for a country like America, if you get the money for pay for mortgage. But at the long run, even if you pay for all that mortgage, you will continue to pay tax for the rest of your life. But for your own country, you own your house, you own that house. Why would you go fight for take back that land, stay for own land? Technically, we get everything. Always stay for this West, for this West. The one and the wish to get them. We just find out the things. We'll fight now for secure generation. We'll not go run away from that. We'll go outsource them. Now task, now responsibility. Some of us will, I don't talk again, I repeat, some of us will laugh our ancestors. Why they will just easily walk over them. They don't get the weapons. They are probably like to give you the blueprint. Now will get that mind, get every tool for 2020 something, to fight to take that land for owner. Move future can be like.
That if this country was built on the blood of people.
Now America they talk so. America was built on the blood of people. They be toil and they sweat, they fight. Till they beat the British, the greatest nation on earth. If they be do so to claim their own independence, when I think they'll hand for we.
From distant places, we are ready as soldiers of the revolution to make sure that one day, just one day, we have a homeland to call our own, a place to dwell in peace, a place where we as a people can decide our destiny. You've just got started. It's a long journey. Liberation is not a walk in the park, and I want you to be ready. Do not believe soothsayers.
My whole about that place. The president will ego situation. It is not a walk in the park. It is a long journey. Don't believe the soothsayers who say that it's going to be an easy walk. That one are greedy, stingy, selfish, profiteers. Who the one take advantage for something we just because he did the way he did. When I don't see them, so maybe if you say as they jump in, oh, we'll free the land the next minute, and then there will be ministers, there will be diplomats, there will be this, there will be that. No. If your intention for this revolution, be as say you want to make a gain or you want to leapfrog for make a gain, for be something for Amazonia, think twice. Now, once you don't fall out, run, do get out, type or even turn against the revolution. Like those leeches that were there amongst us.
Who said you are just going to have it on a platter of gold. It's gonna be a hard struggle. But the foot
is going to be a hard struggle. Listen to the next way talk.
Prince you live here today will be followed by those after us. They will know we were here. They will know we fought for them. They will know we died for them. They will know we did our part. And so they will use the same road map to be able to inhabit a free country. If that's the only thing we can give our children, let's do it for Mother Amazonia. I want to thank your leadership. I want to thank
it is going to be a hard struggle. We should be ready for that. They will get there. I come today purposely to preach the gospel of courage, believe in ourselves, determination. We as dignified people deny by every means possible, say no, we destiny this. Our ancestors laid the blueprint. They take their own risk. They will be killed. They lay the blueprint for we. They hijack them. Now place for fight them. Now we place for fight them. Take them. So that the future generation will build back on it. The present with toxicity, it is going to be a hard struggle. Don't believe in soothsayers who said it's going to be handed to you on a platter of gold. No. I come for call on Amazonians who will prepare your mind for celebrate the 1st of October. Those are emblems, those are significant days in that, important days, and also for recommit into the revolution. Any little way, recommit back to freedom. We will get there. There wasn't going to be a walk in the park. There wasn't going to be a bed of roses. We've experienced thorns in our flesh. It was going to be a hard struggle. But the rest assured, we shall be free. At times we might be full with despair. Oh, how this thing will end. No. The tougher the thing become, the clearer it is, so we'll free ourselves. I want to ask now, 3 years before Afghanistan, they want to try to break the backs of the US to get out of the country. You ask them, with all this mighty power where they get even nuclear weapons, now beat them. One thing Afghanistan to say, yes, we live for fight and for fight, make sure, say, if that one will be our own mission, we'll continue to fight. And they fight, they continue till they beat America out of the land. No be guns, no be power, no be might, but they use just that spirit to say we need to be free, we don't want to be oppressed. Now, I call it a prophet for Africa. Rem Traore, a slave, we know say the slave, you know people will rebel, you know get no, you don't deserve pity, you know these people leave. Deserve no pity. And Ambazonians, we deny to be slaves. We refuse to be slaves. I want to tell you that the fighting generation is for Ambazonia. We don't get any people of Ambazonia except to fight. And we will be free. Prepare your mind the next 5 to 10 years. Video is anything will be short. But we will be free. The end goal is we will be free. We no go give up. But the blood the young shed up. The ones that kill the innocent, everything we no go give up. We get everything for free land, for free ourselves. We have every tool available. One thing I say, we get up every morning, talk to Ambazonian will be free. I want to give one message for all Ambazonians, genuine Ambazonians. I want to give one message. You know, some story they say, now when you hear about Hannibal, maybe there for North, Hannibal be there for, I think, Carthage, an old kingdom. Hannibal will threaten Rome seriously. But one spirit be there where every Roman be get them in there. And they make it like a mantra. They make it like a mantra. And they call on Ambazonians all. Make it like a mantra where you talk unconsciously inside you. When you see an Ambazonian, greet, good afternoon, brother. Ambazonian must be free. Good afternoon, sister. Ambazonian must be free. That one is the mantra where we all will carry in this generation. Everywhere we meet up an Ambazonian, you greet, you tell to Ambazonian must be free. Put that mantra, internalize it. And you will see the magic we will walk on. On all we greeting supposed to be good morning, Ambazonian must be free. Good afternoon, Ambazonian must be free. Good evening, Ambazonian must be free. That one get to be the mantra to internalize with freedom. Every Ambazonian must carry that particular mantra. Wherever you meet an Ambazonian, you greet, good morning, Ambazonian must be free. On the phone, good afternoon, Ambazonian must be free. Wherever you go, good evening, Ambazonian must be free. Bro, how are you? Ambazonian must be free. We continue our conversation. All we will carry that mantra. And when you carry that mantra, you internalize them. We will be free. Because we will fight for every means available for free land. I can't forgive the message of courage and determination. One takeaway, what I talk again, the mantra for freedom for Ambazonia. When you meet your brother, say, brother, good morning, Ambazonia must be free. Bro, how are you? Ambazonia must be free. On the phone, when you telephone, Ambazonia must be free. My man, how? Ambazonia people be free. My sister, how? Ambassador must be free. Papa, how? Ambassador people be free. That one of the mantra we all live to internalize them globally. And we will see the freedom will come. Because everything will belong to God. We think about the freedom of Ambazonia. If you love Ambazonia that much, that should be a mantra. I will live by that mantra. God bless you all. And I stay focused on the freedom of Ambazonia by any means possible. Do your own part. Do your bit. But today, I can't be encouraged. And the mantra, Ambazonia must be free. That the greeting mantra that we all can.
Wallahi. Wallahi.
Monsieur le Président Paul Biya, nous avons piétiné
anglophones.
Wallahi.
Nous avons qualifié ces personnes d'anglophones.
Je t'ai dit.
Nous avons tout pris à la Sonara.
Wallahi.
La moitié des fonctionnaires, ce ne sont que les écans.
Hein?
Les ambassadeurs se sont levés.
Wallahi.
Ils n'ont pas été d'accord
Je t'ai dit.
avec ce partage.
Je t'ai dit, c'est le droit aussi.
Ce président Paul Biya, ce bordel qui est dans le Cameroun, qui va régler ces problèmes.
Wallahi. Question.
Les déplacés de guerre du Nozo.
Eh Dieu.
Qu'est-ce que les séparatistes font en prison, monsieur le président Paul Biya?
Question.
Est-ce que la place d'Ayutabe est à Kondengi?
Non.
Est-ce que Ayutabe a pillé? Est-ce que Ayutabe a détourné?
Non.
Mais vous avez vos petits ministres qui ont détourné l'argent du Covid-19, ils ne sont pas en prison.
Wallahi.
Vous avez les hauts ministres qui ont détourné l'argent des travaux des routes, ils ne sont pas en prison. Comme M. Paul Biya libère M. Ayutabe et tous les séparatistes anglophones.
Et les marafales, il y a Mohamed aussi, ma soeur. Tu as raison.
Oui. Ton fils a volé tout le Cameroun, il a vendu tout le bois.
Wallahi.
A-t-il été inquiété?
Il devait être même arrêté.
La moitié des sous-préfets du Cameroun sont que des écans et les boulots.
Wallahi, il y a un même
Quand
qui
nous
a
avons un
à
concours
Garwala
dans
qui nous
l'armée,
dérange.
Ce sont les militaires. Dieu merci, tout ce que Dieu fait est bon. La moitié de ces écans sont morts dans le Nozo. Les ambassadeurs en ont fait que des cimetières.
Assia, Assia.
Monsieur le président Paul Biya, c'est à l'armée de libérer tes prisonniers? Ou tu n'es pas au courant que Ayutabe est en prison?
Il sait, il sait.
Qui a mis Ayutabe en prison?
Question.
Qui a créé la guerre du Nozo?
C'est Paul Biya.
Qui t'a menti?
Wallahi.
De déclarer la guerre dans le Nozo en descendant d'un aéroport.
Wallahi.
Comment peux-tu déclarer la guerre dans ton propre État?
Wallahi.
Un chef d'État ne peut pas combattre son peuple. Un chef
Jamais.
d'État ne peut pas prendre les armes contre son peuple.
Jamais.
Et ça, vous l'avez fait.
Il doit être arrêté.
Face à Dieu, vous aurez votre justice.
Vraiment.
Mais le sang des Camerounais doit s'arrêter. Nous ne voulons plus la guerre en Nozo. Nous ne
Dieu.
voulons plus de tueries en Nozo.
Eh
Nous
Dieu.
ne voulons plus ces crimes dans le Nozo.
Eh Dieu.
Que les anglophones rentrent chez eux.
Vraiment. Tout doit être même libéré. Les prisonniers politiques
Je
confondus.
dirais, mes chers frères,
Mhm.
anglophones,
Oui.
je vous ai insulté.
Hein?
Je me suis prise la tête.
Oui.
J'ai toujours pensé que j'étais intouchable. J'ai toujours cru que j'étais supérieur parce que j'étais de la majorité présidentielle.
Eh Dieu.
J'ai toujours su au fond de moi que parce que j'étais du parti du feu,
Ouais.
j'étais la meilleure. Mais ma conscience a été traumatisée.
Tu es pardonné, ma soeur. Une faute avouée et à moitié
C'est
pardonnée.
même
Oh.
cette armée
Ouais, Dieu.
doit interpeller et arrêter tous les ministres voleurs pillards.
Wallahi.
Pourquoi l'armée
Nous allons
ne
les
fait
citer un à
pas
un.
jouer
Nous allons les citer un à un.
C'est
Il faut
même-
que l'armée les arrête.
dans la République?
Je te dis.
Un mec de l'ordre.
Je te dis. Je te dis.
Alors,
Je te dis. On les connaît.
Monsieur le président Paul Biya, ceux qui font la guerre en Nozo, ce sont des anglophones qui ont vécu, qui vivent la misère, qui n'acceptent pas.
Je te dis.
Ces guerriers anglophones n'écoutent même plus leur leader.
Je te dis. La
La
rage.
guerre du Nozo ne dépend plus des libéraux séparatistes.
Je te dis. La rage.
Ce sont des Camerounais qui ont dit trop, c'est
C'est
trop.
trop.
Faites ou mourir.
Mourir. Je dis.
La paix ou la liberté.
En tout cas.
Ceux qui se battent dans le Nozo
Ouais.
ne sont pas des leaders
Jamais.
des partis politiques.
Jamais.
Ce sont des jeunes Camerounais
Oui.
qui ne comprennent pas
Oui.
que la partie du Nozo soit dans la misère.
Je te dis. Avec le
Pour qu'un
pétrole.
anglophone
Avec la banane.
se fasse une place, il doit aller aux États-Unis.
Aïe, aïe, aïe.
Pour qu'un anglophone
Eh
se
Dieu.
fasse un bon salaire, il doit aller en Angleterre.
Eh Dieu.
Mais pour qu'un écam se fasse un salaire, il va devenir sous-préfet, et puis dans les caisses d'État, et il se fait les poches pleines. Ils ne vont pas à l'école.
Jamais.
Tous les diplômes des écams sont faux.
Vraiment.
Il faut voir. Ils ont diminué leurs âges à moitié.
Je te dis, il y a
Il
un
faut
gouverneur
voir
à
l'armée.
Garwala qui nous embrouille là. Il ne
Quand
veut
tu
même pas
vois un
comparer de la
militaire,
libération des Marafala.
Tu regardes, il vous dira qu'il a 30 ans. En fait, il en a 50.
Hein?
Les diplômes sont des faux.
Vraiment.
Tout est faux.
Vraiment.
Parce que le Seigneur, c'est le Père de la nation.
Faut le dire. Subhanallah.
Est-ce que c'est acceptable
Jamais.
pour vous? Mettez-vous à la place de l'homme anglophone
Eh Dieu.
pour que l'homme anglophone prouve qu'il est valable dans la société. Il doit traverser les frontières.
Eh Dieu.
C'est l'Amérique qui en profite.
Eh Dieu.
Pour qu'un savant anglophone se fasse respecter, il doit aller en Angleterre, il doit aller en Allemagne, il doit aller ailleurs.
Eh Dieu.
Et mais nous, il suffit de porter la tenue du RDPC. Il suffit de dire je suis biaïste. Et les portes s'ouvrent. Et la gloire de Dieu est avec toi.
Eh, subhanallah.
Monsieur le Président Paul Biya, nous, le peuple béti, nous allons payer cher ton départ.
Vraiment.
On va nous faire ça dur.
C'est vrai.
Quand je parle, les gens ne me comprennent pas. Ils pensent que je suis contre mon peuple.
Non,
nous
c'est-
allons payer ce qu'on n'a même pas mangé. Demain, quand le pouvoir ira au nord,
Hein?
l'homme béti va lire.
Inch'Allah.
L'homme étant va supplier.
Hein?
Tu vas dire, j'aimerais être Bamileke, j'aimerais être Douala.
Vengeance
Quand
de
le
30 000
pouvoir va
nordistes.
aller chez les anglophones,
Hein?
je vous jure que vous serez condamnés, vos procès verbaux, vos auditions.
Eh, ils ont tué les
Le
anglophones.
jeu tribunal se
Vraiment.
fera en anglais.
En
Et
tout
j'espère que nous irons tous encore à l'école pour être bilingues. Parce que le anglophone est bilingue. Nous, quand on arrive...
Good morning, all my brothers of Ambazonia, all the fighters. A mountain lion. I walk this way to go walk for Central Market, Muriko, Uboyade. The small visit to go have some. I take a show about the whole Ambazonia Semidesian. The date today now 25 of August 2024. The one they go walk for up. All mountain lion fighters and they go walk for up. Good morning, all my brothers of Ambazonia, all the fighters. A mountain lion. I walk this way to go walk for Central Market, Muriko, Uboyade. The small visit to go have some. I take a show about the whole Ambazonia Semidesian. The date today now 25 of August 2024. The one they go walk for up. All mountain lion fighters and they go walk for up.
Wana Jakiri live, AGF, Jenda Kapu live, the Kelibedi Amudra Wonos Kataram, and now we stand for Wonos Kataram for Jakiri live, AGF, Jenda Kapu, Jenda Kapu, AGF, Bush live, the Kelibedi Amudra Wonos Kataram, and now Wonos stand for 1B for them, Jakiri live, AGF. And that. I'm gonna check them in the morning. I'm gonna check them. Yeah, I'm check them.
My name is Fon Felix Akomo Batibu. Today na 28th of August 2024. What will bring me for here? I say I will collaborate with the Geopolitical for facilitate a work. I will do and so feel say it get security will protect me. But I don't see say even yesterday they can't take me so. That security you know be there. So Ambassador security is strong past that they are on. So I want to advise anybody for inside Ambassador land. Say if you be do and so just cease from that act. Just cease. Because if they want take you, they will take you. You know for height. Because na their land, they know stuff for pass. Then I beg on the population for the Ambazonian. May they see into me. Forgive me. Give me a last chance. So if this kind of thing happen with me again, then I should hold myself responsible.
Fellow Ambazonians, dear people of Mugamu, the park of Batibu is suspended as from today till further notice. Bike riders and drivers should not load or offload passengers at that park. In the past few weeks, 9 Ambazonian youths are missing and we know they have been killed. They were all picked up from that park and their whereabouts is unknown. We are doing this for your security and safety while monitoring the situation. We will come back to you with further information.
And then from Felix Akumu Batibu, today na 28th of August 2024. What you will bring me for year? I say I will collaborate with the Geopolitical for facilitate a work. I will do and so feel say he get security will protect me. But I don't see say even yesterday they can't take me so. That's security, you know, be there. So ambassador security is strong, past that they are on. So I want to advise anybody for inside ambassador land. Say if you will do and so just cease from that act. Just cease. Because if they want to take you, they will take you. You know for height. Because na their land, they know stuff for pass. Then I beg on the population for the Amazonian. May they see into me. Forgive me. Give me a last chance. So if this kind of thing happen with me again, then I should hold myself responsible.
Bonjour peuple camerounais. Je suis un ancien militaire de la garde présidentielle, formé en 2011 à Obala, précisément au centre d'instruction de la garde présidentielle à Minkama. Je n'ai pas duré à la garde présidentielle à cause de ma façon de voir des choses et de dire les vérités aux chefs. J'ai été reversé. Et je suis rentré dans mon corps d'origine, l'armée de l'air, à la base 201 à Douala. Je sais que beaucoup vont parler, je ne peux pas vous donner mon nom, mais allez fouiller mon matricule. Mon matricule, c'est ceci. A 2011-14062. Et en 2015, nous sommes partis à la force multinationale mixte à l'extrême nord pour lutter contre la secte islamique Boko Haram. En voilà la tenue que je porte aujourd'hui, que ça me fait. Et me voilà derrière, ça c'est à l'extrême nord du Cameroun, où nos primes ont été détournées. Nous devons avoir 450 000 chaque fin du mois. Ils ont pris nos comptes à plusieurs reprises, mais aucun franc n'a été déposé. Le gouvernement camerounais me doit 12 millions. Et tous ces militaires qui ont été à la force multinationale, c'est 12 millions. Pourquoi j'interpelle, pourquoi je viens ici aujourd'hui dire les choses? C'est parce que les choses arrivent tellement si vite au Cameroun. L'heure est grave. Steve Agam a été enlevé au Gabon. Je demande au gouvernement camerounais de nous donner fait signe de vie de M. Akam alias Raymond Kota. Parce que je sais de quoi je parle. Je suis sûr, s'il est vivant, il est en train de subir des tortures. Et j'interpelle aussi les militaires parce que l'homme en tenue au pays, au Cameroun, c'est les gens les plus pauvres. Entre parenthèses, je vais parler là où j'en connais. Dans l'armée. 90% des militaires sont à rouge à la banque. 95% sont crédités partout. Ils doivent partout au quartier. Les Sénégalais qui ont les boutiques, les mamans qui ont les petits bars au quartier. Alors, camarades, il est temps que nous prenions nos responsabilités. Est-ce que nous allons continuer à vivre la misère et M. Paul Biya s'enrichir avec son groupe des voleurs de jour en jour pendant que nous dormons à faim? Il y a des militaires qui n'arrivent même pas à payer leur loyer. Après, on va dire pourquoi les militaires sont dans beaucoup de mauvaises choses au Cameroun. C'est parce qu'ils n'ont rien. Le militaire commence avec 37 000, si je ne me trompe pas, ou c'est 32 500, quelque chose comme ça. Après, il monte x2. Après 2 ans, avec 32 000, il monte à 72 000. Dites-nous un peu, soyons dans un pays sérieux. Avec 72 000, que tu travailles à Douala ou à Yaoundé, tu dois vivre comment? Alors, s'il vous plaît, anciens camarades, prenons nos responsabilités. Comme je le dis, me voici, avoir mon insigne de la garde présidentielle. Et comme je le dis, on avait prêté serment pour défendre les couleurs du pays, pas pour défendre un individu. Pardon, prenons conscience Il est temps que nous, militaires, nous nous réveillons. Nous tous, nous savons. Je sais qu'au Cameroun, quand un jeune doit parler, vous allez aller l'arrêter. Mais vous arrêtez ces jeunes même avec le mal parce que vous ne vivez pas bien. Je ne peux pas compter le nombre de fois que les anciens camarades me demandent, gars, binôme, c'est chaud sur moi, ma femme doit bonne tel jour. Est-ce que tu peux me faire ceci? Est-ce que... Voilà. Vous-même, regardez dans quelle misère nous vivons. Alors, s'il vous plaît, 2025 arrive. Chassons Paul Biya avec sa bande de voleurs. Chassons-le avec sa bande de voleurs. Je sais qu'il y a encore des bons militaires, des hommes avec du bonne foi au Cameroun, parce que j'en ai connu. Il est temps que nous disions non à M. Paul Biya et sa bande. Merci.
Tu as quitté l'armée, pourquoi? Très bonne question. Je vais répondre à cette question en toute honnêteté. Vous comprenez ce qu'elle dit? Voilà. Plusieurs personnes m'ont déjà posé la question aussi. Pourquoi est-ce que j'ai quitté l'armée camerounaise? Les gars, je vais vous dire quelque chose. Vous savez, dans notre gouvernement là, il y a un groupe de personnes qui manipulent tout le Cameroun entier. Dans tous les domaines. Vous voyez un peu. Ça veut dire quoi? Ils protègent certains jeunes et abandonnent d'autres à leur propre sort. Vous comprenez ce qu'il dit là? Voilà, je vais prendre le cas de la boîte à laquelle j'appartenais, qui est l'armée. Quand tu entres dans l'armée au Cameroun et que tu es un enfant de pauvre, tu sors d'une famille lambda, tu n'appartiens à personne et tout, on te prend, on t'envoie tout le temps en zone de guerre et tout. Chaque fois tu es en zone de guerre. Et les enfants de riches, qu'est-ce qu'ils font? Quand ils entrent dans l'armée, quand ils sortent, on les affecte dans les zones de paix, Douala, Yaoundé, etc. Et ils sont plus avantagés que les enfants de pauvres. Vous voyez un peu? Alors, comment un jeune qui est conscient de sa situation ne peut pas avoir les idées de fuir l'armée, étant donné que nous sommes ancrés pour une même cause, mais nous ne sommes pas traités de la même façon et de la même manière. Vous voyez un peu? Nous ne sommes pas traités de la même façon dans l'armée. Les enfants des pauvres sont traités d'une manière et les enfants des pauvres et des riches sont traités d'une autre manière. Vous voyez? Et en ce qui concerne même aussi les salaires, quand toi, fonctionnaire ou alors contractuel, on peut te donner un salaire de 38 250 francs que tu dois toucher pendant 2 ans. Comment les idées de fuir l'armée ne vont pas te venir en tête? De vous à moi, on peut te donner 30, tu vas faire quoi avec 38 250 francs? Le temps, si nous sommes en 2024, ce n'est pas l'armée de Koulmayos que avec 38 000, tu pouvais manger même pendant 1 mois chez toi. Nous sommes en 2024, mais le gouvernement camerounais continue à donner 38 250 aux soldats camerounais. Est-ce que c'est normal? Et pour que ton salaire augmente même, il faut que tu rampes dans tout Yaoundé. Comment nous les jeunes là qui rêvons grand, nous n'allons pas fuir l'armée? Je ne suis pas le premier ni le dernier à fuir l'armée. Beaucoup de militaires camerounais fuient l'armée à cause des conditions. Vous voyez un peu? Et je vais aussi parler de la guerre qui sévit au Cameroun du côté anglophone depuis 2017. Notre gouvernement camerounais connaît la source du problème. Ils connaissent tout ce qui se passe dans le nozo, mais ils ne veulent pas trouver une solution. Donc il y a plusieurs problèmes au sein de l'armée camerounaise. Vous voyez un peu. C'est seulement que l'armée est une boîte muette. Vous voyez, est une boîte secrète. C'est la raison pour laquelle les secrets ne peuvent pas sortir de là. Parce que on ne peut pas te dire que tu es ancré dans l'armée et le serment c'est honneur et fidélité. C'est vrai, honneur et fidélité. Nous sommes tous ancrés dans l'armée camerounaise pour défendre notre pays. Vous voyez? Mais nous ne sommes pas ancrés dans cette boîte-là pour combattre nos propres frères qui sont les anglophones. Après on va te dire que tu n'as pas respecté le serment honneur et fidélité. Quel serment? Donc c'est une catégorie de personnes qui doivent respecter le serment honneur et fidélité et qui doivent laisser leur vie jusqu'au sacrifice suprême. Tandis que d'autres personnes vivent très bien et tout ce qui va avec, ils sont là, ils n'ont pas de problème. Vraiment, il faudrait que notre gouvernement trouve une solution par rapport à la situation de notre pays. Franchement, cher papa, chère maman, trouver une solution par rapport à la situation de notre pays. Notre pays va très mal. Très mal, je vous assure. Moi, je préfère rester ici dans ces conditions-ci que de retourner au Cameroun. Je vous assure, pourtant je suis Camerounais et je suis fier d'être Camerounais, mais la situation que nous vivons au pays ne nous donne pas l'envie de retourner. Ça ne nous donne pas du tout l'envie de retourner. Comment se fait-il qu'un ancien militaire que je suis, je me retrouve ici à Dubaï, laveur de marmite, laveur de sol, laveur d'assiette, laveur de voiture, ça ne s'explique pas. Voilà, il n'y a pas de fumée sans feu. Vous comprenez? Il n'y a pas de fumée sans feu.
Hi everyone. I wish that I could be with you in person today, but I'm so honored to be included in this short video. My name is Dr. Julia Barnes. I am a cultural anthropologist specializing in human rights forensics in the context of mass atrocities. I've worked with survivor populations on 3 continents, both to collect testimony and to exhume mass graves. I'm right now in the middle of a postdoctoral research fellowship in Colombia, sponsored by the National Science Foundation. Before I accepted this position, I taught in the Genocide Studies minor at Chatham University. Last fall semester, I had my students work with Bamileke genocide survivors to begin building a community archive and eventually pursue international recognition of the Bamileke genocide. For some historical context, the Bamileke genocide lasted approximately from 1948 to 1971. It was perpetrated by colonial France against the Cameroonian ethnic group known as the Bamileke. The death toll of this genocide ranges from estimates of 100,000 to 400,000 people, with the reported 120,000 killed in the year 1960 alone. What was the motive? Cameroon was one of the 20 African states colonized by France in the 19th and 20th centuries. The well-organized Cameroonian independence movement, spearheaded largely by the Bamileke people, provoked a brutal response by the French government as it clung to its last colonial holdings. The most thorough historical source about the Bamileke genocide that we have is a report published by 2 French journalists and a Cameroonian historian entitled Cameroon, a Hidden War at the Origins of France-Afrique. The source includes mention of General Max Briand, the leader of the French Expeditionary Corps from December 1959, who reported to his superiors 20,000 Bamileke deaths under his command in the year 1960 alone. But these findings and others fly directly in the face of the French government's official stance, which remains unchanged since 2009, when Prime Minister François Fillon visited Cameroon and their collaborationist government to declare, and I quote, "I absolutely deny that the French forces were involved in anything related to murder in Cameroon. All of this is pure invention." In fact, though, the French tactics of Cameroonian pacification included the use of napalm and heavy artillery to destroy entire villages. There was no distinction made between civilians and combatants. Bamileke women, children, and elders were considered enemies of the state, and the French technique of total subjugation included psychological warfare via cultural genocide as well. In Bamileke cosmology, the head houses a person's spirit or soul essence. In normal times, Bamileke mortuary care includes disinterring and enshrining the skulls of one's ancestors. This care practice endures for generations. If a family has to relocate, the family shrine moves with them, even across countries and continents. And this is what the French learned, and this is why the French occupation began a systematic campaign of decapitation, publicly displaying rows of severed heads along roads and in public squares in Bamileke territory. This was followed by the clandestine disposal of these heads in mass unmarked graves, ensuring that the Bamileke culture's means of remaining linked to their ancestors was cut off. These graves remain hidden today. Historically, we know that genocides are usually followed by a period of silence. People are either forbidden from talking about what they endured, or they're just too traumatized. That silence is often weaponized by deniers, like the French government, to serve their own agendas. At the state level, this is often about dodging reparations. Skeptics might question how an atrocity of this magnitude could happen silently without garnering media attention. But as a genocide scholar, I want to emphasize that the revelation of another colonial genocide brought to light through a community's organizing 50 years after the end of the colonial era is exactly in line with what we would expect. In fact, I expect more communities will be emboldened and come forward as the children and grandchildren of survivors take up the torch for justice and recognition for the crimes that were perpetrated during the colonial era in Africa. In 2023, I began recording the testimony of a now dearly departed friend. This was Dr. Gilbert Doho, who survived the Bamileke genocide as a child. I hired a research assistant, Sean McIntosh, to aid in this work until Dr. Doho's recent passing. But before he died, he was adamant that he wanted his testimony to become the first in an archive that we now call the Lakam Community Archive. And this archive grew with the involvement of 7 of my students of my International Politics of Atrocity course last year at Chatham. Dr. Doho's testimony is truly harrowing. He watched collaborators kill his father, he watched his neighbors burned by napalm, and he walked past lines of severed heads as French soldiers taunted the victims' families. Having witnessed all of this as a child, he spent his life trying to make sense of it. He earned his doctorate studying it and accepted a professorship in Francophone studies at Case Western Reserve University, where he worked until he died. He published prolifically on the subject of the Bamileke genocide, but never about his own experience. So I would like to share 2 minutes of his testimony with you now. Thank you.
With the eyes of the child then, I saw those helicopters, I saw those B-52 throwing, bomb, machine gunning people down, from the air, etc., and above all, using napalm to burn. And I want to insist that at that period, the way the Bamileke land was done, you did have a lot of corrugated iron roof that you had. It was just straw, lapai, that could be burned, etc., etc. So my goodness, a few months after my father, not a few months, 1 month minimum, my own kingdom, the Funda kingdom, and all the other 27 kingdoms of Mbuda area, they were wiped down, burned down totally, with the perspective of, but when I say of burning down, it's not only burning, the houses, the homes where people live, it was also killing the animals that you need, burning the crops, in fact, make it impossible for the population to live even in the bush. And that's the beginning of what I call total eradication of my people. And
My dear people of Amazonia, my fellow brave warriors of our liberation movement, accept liberation greetings from me, Comrade John Akuro. This day we are on Tuesday, September 3, 2024. I'm delighted to be here today, so we have this very important conversation hinging on peace, justice, and education. My people of Amazonia, we have really come a long way in this liberation movement. Since 2016, most especially when the agitation began, through 2017, when the government of La Republique decided to stop dialogue and go ahead to force their will on our people, banning all the movements, groups, and organizations that they were, engaged in discussion with the Southern Cameroon's National Council, SCNC, and especially the consortium. My people of Amazonia, we have traversed very difficult moments, and we have also been able to evolve in our thoughts and in our approaches to prosecuting our liberation movement. I know that we really have not been a perfect lot. We are human. We have faced challenges, we have faced difficulties, But all the same, and most importantly, we have done everything along the way to perfect our ability to handle both our quest for freedom and the need to continue to foster the education of our children. I like to recall, just so that no one forgets here, that the education system prevalent in the southern Cameroons is one of the immediate causes of this phase of our liberation movement, because our people observed that what La République du Cameroon was doing was simply doing all they could to water down our education system so that we spend time training job seekers and not job creators, so that we spend time training people who will come up and continue to perpetuate the cycle of dependence that our people have faced over the years. And for that reason, we felt again that the level of adulteration that was being brought in was simply meant to weaken our educational system and simply francophonize us. That is, get us from one colonial setup to another one. That's something we said no to. Today, I saw a video. I saw a video post that this is by the Apostolic Nuncio to Cameroon, in Yaoundé. When I watched that video, it pricked my mind very seriously, because I told myself that elsewhere we have seen what the church has been able to do in ensuring that there is justice. But in the situation of the southern Cameroons, there is an unfortunate but honest conclusion one can come to, that the church has been twisted to the point where it is almost becoming part of the conduit of the oppression, the injustice, and the perpetual pain that our people are facing. So we're doing some little research. And let's begin this discussion with Maria Montessori. Maria Montessori says, establishing lasting peace is the work of education. All that politics can do is keep us out of war. Now, listen. Establishing lasting peace is the work of education. Our expectation will be that church leaders, the global church, the universal church, will go out there to educate the political class to the need to see that where there is no justice, there cannot be peace. You cannot decree peace, because this is exactly what Montessori is saying. You can't decree peace. All politics can do is keep us out of war, but that will not bring peace. What the Catholic Church ought to do, what the church in general ought to do, is to continue to educate the political class, because this political class needs that education to the effect that it is not power, it is not decree at all times that can help you attain your objective. All you can do is decree that there is no war, or you can say, okay, we started war, we are stopping war. But if you want lasting peace, then you need to educate this political class to understand that lasting peace will come through justice. Where justice is not seen to be done, there will never be peace. Absolutely. I say where justice is not seen to be done, there will never be peace. So that all of us flow with this discussion, so that all of us understand what I'm talking about, let's listen to the Apostolic Nuncio. I will not interrupt him. I'll let him go all the way, then I'll come back.
Peace and greetings from the Apostolic Nunciature. I am the Apostolic Nuncio in Cameroon, Pope Francis's representative amongst you. Cameroon has become my home and my passion. A temporary exhibit here features Cameroonian children's wishes for peace. This photographic exhibition was produced by the Piarist Fathers with photographer Emily Pina. One child, by the name of Peter, even says, "Living in peace feels good, just to wake up and go to school without fear." He was prevented from going to school because of violence. Our children are our future. Children suffer the most when there is violence. According to UNESCO, over 250 million children worldwide are prevented from attending school because of conflicts and violence. According to the World Bank, over 17,500 children in Cameroon are prevented from attending school, primarily in the regions of the Northwest, Southwest, and far north. Millions of children's futures are destroyed. Violence is never justified. Violence comes from evil. Peace, and only peace, comes from God. Violence is not justified, not on Sundays, not on Mondays, or any other day of the week. This month of September, let us not prevent children from going to school. Let us free the children. Let us allow the children to build the future. I add my voice to countless Cameroonians from all walks of life, from north to south, from east to west, not least the voices of the Catholic bishops of Cameroon, who work tirelessly to build the future. Nelson Mandela once said, "Educating all of our children must be one of our most urgent priorities." We all know that educating, more than anything else, improves our chances of building better lives. Pope Francis reminds us that the mission of schools and teachers is to develop an understanding of all that is true, good, and beautiful. Dear friends, violence is never justified. Only peace is the way of the future. This month of September, please let the children attend school, and together let us work for peace. Thank you. God bless.
Now we have listened to the Apostolic Nuncio. Folks, the Apostolic Nuncio says one clear thing. All he bothers about is peace. But trust me, when you get to the Bible, they tell you that God is a God of justice. Where there is no justice, there can be no peace. The Apostolic Nuncio should take this podium and tell Paul Biya, remind the government of La République du Cameroun to the importance of addressing the root causes of this conflict. I like to say this here. In 2017, led by the Foley and Hawk law firm, a number of us from southern Cameroons were received by the ambassador of the Vatican to the United Nations in New York. We were received at his office in New York. I was in the company of Mr. Alex Nganda and Harriet Fomoki and just one other brother. His name just keep my mind, and I'll say it when I get to it. We had over 45 minutes explaining to the ambassador, was a representative of the Pope at the United Nations. I'm not saying to the United States, at the United Nations, drawing his attention to the fact that we needed the voice of the Vatican in calling on these international instances and in calling on the attention of the government of Cameroon to the importance for us to sit around a table and have a fruitful conversation about the root causes of this conflict. All we gathered after those 45 minutes of discussion was just one thing. The summary of it was simply that as far as the church is concerned, they didn't care about whatever was going on. All that mattered was that they just needed a peaceful environment to continue to carry out their apostolic mission. But part of this apostolic mission is supposed to be fighting against injustices, fighting against social injustices, fighting against inequalities, fighting against marginalization, fighting against torture, fighting against the dehumanization of the human person. Right from that moment, therefore, we had a clue, because I had it firsthand. I was seated at that meeting. Right from that moment, therefore, we had a clue exactly what to expect from the church in these circumstances. You'll be embarrassed to find out that in some other cases, evangelicals from, should it be the Pentecostal churches or other denominations, have identified with their folks in conflict areas like in Southern Sudan. They rose to the occasion. The situation in Sudan was addressed. So when I watch the apostolic nuncio, I feel pain in my heart, because first, this apostolic nuncio doesn't take note of the fact that we as a people in the Southern Cameroon, in this liberation movement, have evolved. He doesn't take note of the fact that at the core of this struggle is the quality of education being handed down to our children. This apostolic nuncio refuses to recognize that fact that we have not stopped children from going to school again in the Southern Cameroons. When there was the boycott, this boycott was agreed to and implemented with the consent of the parents. And when there was need